in little cubbies. You do anything in the game, you're going to piss somebody off. God damn it. Just an interruption. I don't know why it does this. Chat, tell him to F5. Anyways, the point being, chat, your reputation in game is never going to be independent. You're never going to be removed from other people's, like. Did it really kick me off and totally screw up my Yeah, it did. God damn it. Hold on. I have to fix the YouTube VOD now because it's like, for those of you who just got into YouTube, it's just like, why I missed? You just missed the very beginning. It was all. It'll be up for a little bit, I guess. It's been doing this consistently now, too. Let me fix this. There we go. Okay, what's the safe word? I don't know. Ask. This pisses me off. The YouTube doesn't have a kind of recovery system like delete that. All right. All right. Well, it's been happening recently. Like every Thursday, this is the second time it's happened very recently. So it's something about my internet connection. I have a feeling that it has to do with the fact that more people are using the internet now, because it's myself, my wife, and my brother-in-law who's staying with us until he can get his own place. We're 5 million past 100 million for the year, and November turned out 8% bigger than last November. Yeah, I when I saw the number being lower and in the middle of the sale, I'm like, whatever. Last year was pretty big. You know, as long as they beat 2020, I'll be okay. But they beat fucking 2021 again. Like, I don't like. I get people are legitimately concerned about this game, and people have opinions on business practices, and they have very personal opinions on business practice. Opinions that I tend to disagree with on average, because I think a lot of people's opinions on business practices are affected by their own whims and their own personal disappointments, so they're looking for something else to be mad at. And some people are just addicted to controversy. Some people just want to huff that anger, that anger drug into their systems. But I swear to God, every time the community gets up into some big uproar about something, CIG makes record sales. Like, I consistently believe that if people weren't as mad about Star Citizen wouldn't be doing as well as it is now. What's the best place to watch, here or Twitch? YouTube is better because you're going to get higher resolution. And you have instant playback, so you can go back and see what you missed, except for the very beginning, which is now gone. But Twitch, it's about the same. Honestly, it's not that different. All publicity is good publicity as long as they spell your name right. Like, it's nuts because every time someone says, no, you don't understand. People are really pissed now. They're really mad. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard this before. I've heard this before every year for the last 8 years. Maybe one of these days it's going to be true. But it's like those people who keep claiming the world is coming to an end because they saw it in a dream or, they read it in some scripture or, like their dog farted in the right direction. And so they think the world's going to come to an end at a very specific date. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's just people like hoping for something to happen and never going to happen. So if you want to support me financially, Patreon is honestly better. But if you want to choose between YouTube and Twitch, financially, YouTube is better. Because YouTube gives me a 70-30 split, where Twitch gives me a 50-50. In terms of views, either one is fine. Problem is, there's always fresh meat to replace those who grow unhappy. Yeah, but the question also becomes how many people who are unhappy. I mean, like, that assumes that everyone who is an older backer is currently unhappy about the game. Which I'm sure people who are older backers who are unhappy in the game have friends who are unhappy about the game. Which is true, but like, we have the echo chamber problem, where the echo chamber seems to resonate where people say, well, everyone in this community, Reddit, Facebook, Spectrum, Twitter, whatever community you're in, your own org, Discord, is unhappy about X, Y, or Z. So you think that everyone in the community is pissed about it. But like, those are the vocal, like 10% of the community. Majority of the community aren't going to be engaging with those community and with those sites and those locations if they're playing the game. So that's the problem. It's like yeah, I'm sure there are older folks, but I think people weight those people more than is in reality. Regarding the CIG sales, spending is the only way whales like me can get detractors a big FU. Well, I'm kidding, or am I? I don't know. Communities always create echo chambers. I'm fine with the state of the game, so I don't post in community forums. I think that's generally the speaking. Happy people play video games. Happy video gamers play video games. They don't complain. And at least according to every metric I can see and CIG's own statements, I know a lot of people don't take those valuable at all, but all those metrics seem to show that like CIG isn't losing anything. They're gaining more and more. Not just more and more people, but more and more like it's weird. How are you aware of how my dog predicted the end of the world? I didn't tell anyone that. Hey, Spider Bonsai. You're only going to see negative if you engage with negative views. You engage with positive and negative, you'll see way more content. Yeah. See, actually had a game mode called Zen Citizen for some people. I just see it as FIFO. I don't know what that is, but I probably remember if you spelled out the anachronism, but my anachronism, my brain no working. Just to be clear, I think it's a positive to be critical about some things at the same time. First in, first out. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's much more likely, based off of what I've seen, that most people who have backed the game early did the smart thing and just waited, just left. Had kids, had a career, played other video games, did their own thing. And then we'll come back to Star Citizen when they're like, oh yeah, this was a game. I remember backing it. I'm a font of positivity, but I can grit my teeth in certain moments. I mean, like I've made very clear, because people have asked me this question, I don't like CIG's concept sales of larger ships. I think it's a stupid move because CIG themselves know they don't have the manpower now, and so they're hoping and praying they're going to have more manpower in the future to fix that. It's like CIG, you can barely keep people around sometimes because you have. I don't think CIG has a high turnover rate, but they seem to have a aged out rate where people have been working for the company for like 7 years, and most video game jobs are 4. Like you just don't work on video games for more than 4 or 5 years. So a lot of people will start to want to wander off to their new to better pastures, better pay, better locations, better lifestyle because they don't have to be in the studio often. They can go teach. A couple people have gone to teach. So, my personal opinion is like I don't mind CIG doing like the straight to flyable smaller ships as long as they're working on the other smaller ships, which they seem to be. It's just the big concept ships. It's just like, it's going to take too longer. Why the fuck are you doing this? But I know some people are really upset about the straight to flyable because they're like, well, if you have the resources now to make this straight to flyable, you had the resources to put this into my capital ship. But then my only thought is, but you can't do anything with your capital ship because it requires half the server to crew, and you can't even crew it because half the jobs aren't even in the game yet. There's no point in putting the Nautilus in because there's no mines. There's no point in doing the Vulcan because there's no drone gameplay. And if someone goes, well, then they should work on that gameplay, the answer is they are. It's just taking time. They're already working on the resource gameplay, which will free up a lot of that stuff, but that's not going to be done for another 6 months. And no, adding more people to that is not going to help. Because, like, in my mind, the whole thing is we're in this weird situation where Star Citizen is starting to reach a point where screaming at them for any specific problem, the answer is they're working on it. Here's where they say they're working on it. Here's how they've improved it in the last year. Performance, bam. Number of players, bam. Gameplay, bam. Like, it's just that we're just in this situation where what they need to do is going to take time. Back first in 2014, but started playing this year. Still play at least weekly. I like the game even now, but I still don't recommend it unless people try it for free. Star Citizen's a 40-year project. Call of Duty and GTA have done the same thing for decades. They just release installments. Sean's chonked up a bit. That's what happens when you just stay inside and eat junk food because you need to crunch out things. It's called Dave Mill. It takes time. It does. There's just certain things that you just can't rush. You just got to wait for it to build up. But I also think that a lot of people don't. Like, I've been following as an amateur, as an enthusiast, as you say, game development practices for about 12 years now. Probably more like 15 years. I got interested in it when I was following Halo 2 when I was but a youngster. And since then, I've been fascinated watching documentaries, reading books, and all these sorts of things. Like, because, at one point I thought, hey, I might be able to get into game development myself because, I'm an idiot. And the stuff that I've learned from that and from following Star Citizen is, one of the big ones was, can't remember the name of it, but I know it comes from a book called The Mythical Man Month, which is, you can easily call it the Mythical Man Year, because the concept is development of software, but just any project in general, is not linear. You don't add more people to a project while it's in production to speed up the pace. If anything, that'll slow it down, because when you're dealing with complex projects, you're going to have a lot of other problems in between. So, in some ways, adding more people to a team isn't a good idea. There's an optimal number of people, the too many cooks in the kitchen situation. Because if you're coding, well, if you're working with 5 other coders, all of you need to code the same way. You need to know how each other codes to be able to pick up where they left off, to complement them, because otherwise you're going to have problems down the road. And if you add an additional person, you're going to have to teach that person, or the person to learn how y'all work, learn your systems, learn your methods. That can take 9 months to a year to get them up to speed. And they may be able to get up to speed and help you out, but initially they're just going to be a drain, because you're going to have to take 2 or 3 people out to go train them to be able to get them up to speed to where you are. So it doesn't speed up development at all. It slows it down. And that's effectively like where Star Citizen is. They're trying to hire new people just so they can give those people who are in smaller teams a fucking break. Let them take vacations and not have to like worry about the progress of the game. But that's also going to slow down development, because those people are going to have to get trained. They're going to have to practice on the tools. They're going to have to learn what they're doing. And then they can get involved and worked into the team, worked into the schedule, and that kind of stuff. But they cannot build new ships and new teams, or not. They could, but if it's a brand new person coming in, they're going to have to learn how to use the tools. So that person's going to require to know, like, someone doesn't just walk into Star Citizen and be, it's a CIG, and be like, I'm going to make a ship today. They have to learn how to use the tools. They have to be trained on it. Even if you hired a brand new team, 7 people, just plop them in, be like, you're the new ship team 2 at EU. Cool. What the fuck are we going to do? They need to know, like, just the basic stuff, like get a key code so they can get into the building, know where their office is, know where like sign up for their health benefits, the gamut of things that you have to do before you even start working, which can take a month or more. Then they have to know the tools, then to how to build those things. They have to know how to access the library. They have to like the building library, the building language, and work from there. It's still a complex, time-consuming task. They're trying to do it, but that's going to take time as well. So I was saying the real problem will be the server tech, in my humble opinion. I mean, CIG seems to be tackling that pretty well. CIG seems to think that PES is the biggest issue, not necessarily server meshing. Yeah, onboarding, yeah. None of this is unique to CIG, no. It's and not even just the game. This is everything. You're right, Jim. That's exactly right. This is not something that is. This is a project management problem, not a Star Citizen specific problem. But I learned about this. There's a book called The Mythical Man Month. It's kind of old now, but the short and sweet of it is, one woman can make a baby in 9 months. 9 women cannot make one baby in 1 month. It doesn't work like that. Then they also build the tools, so someone off the streets, regardless of experience, has to learn. So someone off the streets, regardless of experience level, has to learn from the bottom up. Still, those tools, even if they speed up the process, they just speed up the process incrementally. There's always going to be someone who has, at some point, someone's going to have to sit down and learn how to make a ship. They can make 9 babies in 9 months. Yeah, I humbly add that as the Shelley addition to that, which is to that law where adding people to a project in process will not speed up development initially. It will over time, but initially it'll slow it down. When I'm hiring, I assume a new hire won't add value to 3 months for project planning. Generally speaking, from what I understand, 6 to 9 months is just the standard for most project planning. It's just 6 to 9 months easy, because you also have to understand, like, 3 months is good, but then even after 3 months, they still probably are amateurs. They're still probably getting started at everything. Most people are comfortable in their job after about a year. The Shelley 9. It's a diminishing term. A scrum team shouldn't be more than about 8 people. You can add teams, but they won't add people to those teams. Yeah, and that's what CIG is doing. If you look at CIG's website, they're hiring like 130 fucking people. Like, The thing that I just learned about the other day, which is Turbulent is opening up a brand new studio in Lyon, France. So there's a new studio, Star Citizen studio in France, that's going to be opening up soon. Now, it could be for something else. It's Turbulent, not CIG. But as far as I can tell, Turbulent and CIG are basically the same company at this point. Because they miss France. I mean, that's why Frankfurt office exists, because they didn't want to move people who are living in Frankfurt from Crytek. They already had a homes and lives, so they just built a studio there. Hey! Thank you, Deepa, for gifting those subs. And Rig, thank you for becoming a VIP. Example, you can't birth a baby faster by adding more mothers. Yeah, it's going to take a certain amount of time to get certain things done, yeah. You never start off knowing how to use a wrench. Someone has to teach you, but the whole teaching is they aren't turning a wrench themselves. Yeah. Hey, Deepa. Run an ad real quickly while dealing with this bull. I could have paid real cash for 2 ships after starter, a Connie and an Endeavor. You've only paid for 2 cash. That's good. I mean, honestly, I'm of the opinion you never pay more than $45 for Star Citizen. If you're paying any more than that, just understand that you're paying it for, like, personal desire. You're not going to get, like, no money is worth more than the starter package. I am a member of the cult of the Endeavor, but the Endeavor is not worth the money, no matter what price it's at, because it's just not worth that kind of cash. Yes, Deepa is back. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Yeah. When it comes to a management problem with more teams, it becomes more bloated with management. That's true. Well, build Star Citizen ship must be 10 times harder to build a submarine than to build a submarine. Gravity electricity hull. Not necessarily, but a submarine will take 10 times as long because the submarine is real and Star Citizen spaceships are fake. And you have the more managing and less people actually doing what needs to get done. Exactly. They're all internet JPEGs, Rig. They're all internet JPEGs. The point being, my point being by all of this, though, is that Star Citizen is just at an awkward situation where the issue is no longer can they do it, it's when will they do it. CIG has its own internal estimates. I think they're overly optimistic about their estimates because they seem to imply that right after 3.18 they'll start working on 4.0, which I'm sure they will. But I also know that they probably want to stabilize 3.18 a little bit more before they release it to the wild, before they go for 4.0, deal with some edge cases like login servers and being able to jump back into the same server you left. Those sorts of little features into the game before they get into server meshing to make it a little bit more usable. And I also don't think that they'd want to do that while they're doing server meshing, and the people who are going to be doing that also will be doing server meshing, so they can't do both at the same time. So that's going to take priority over server meshing to kind of smooth that out, and then server meshing will get worked on. So I'm almost certain that we will see a 3.19 or a 3.18.1.2 and so on and so forth, which will then, take place over May or June. And for Invictus. And so CIG will then say, okay, now we're going to nail down and get 4.0 done. But the problem is that it's going to take them a little bit longer. They even said it'll take them a little bit longer to get 4.0 done. Same as 3.18 took them longer. So they'll release another interim patch, which will be like 3.18.3 or 4 or 3.19, whatever that patch number is, to add new content that is not waiting for server meshing. So server meshing is likely going to end up at the end of next year. So that's really the question, is like what drops when? It's not, can CIG do server meshing? It's not a new technology. It's been around for a long time. They almost certainly can. They're already working on PES. They've already started doing PES. PES is in 3.18. 3.18 is in Evocati. It's not just login testing. They're testing the game. So it's working at some level. And server meshing is easier than PES. True, but CIG has even said that they do not know how long it's going to take, and so they may have to have an interim. That was the whole purpose of 3.19 in the first place, was they didn't know if they could do 4.0, jump right to 4.0 after 3.18, if it was going to take a little bit too longer. I don't think it's going to be too optimistic for Q4 2023. I think it's pessimistic for people to say that it's not going to make it then. I mean, they're still insisting the 3.18 is going live in December, so I'd call that optimistic. They tend to be overly optimistic for sure, but it's also in testing. Like, it's been, for those of you who don't know, 3.18's been in Evocati for about a week or two. You just haven't probably heard it because you've been paying attention to IAE. And CIG's been waiting for, I can almost guarantee you that CIG's been waiting for IAE to finish before they release it to Wave 1 PTU. They're actually doing a little bit different than that, Jin. It's not just 2 servers, 1 for Stanton, 1 for Pyro. They're doing 4. 2 for Stanton and 2 for Pyro. That's how they're doing it. Do you think they'll hold 3.18 until January? Depends on how the state the 3.18's in. From what I can gather, 3.18's not in a bad state currently. It's just not all the stuff is in there yet. Hard not to notice with all the leaks being asked on Spectrum. I mean, I didn't even know about it until the middle of IAE because I was like, well, we haven't heard anything about 3.18 in Evocati. And then everyone's like, it's in Evocati. It's in testing in Evocati. It's like, oh, well, shit. Yeah, I think that is their minimum viable product, is 2 servers, because they got to test a couple of things. They got to test the ability to go from one server to another while in the same system, and they have to test the ability to go from one server to another between 2 systems. So I think that's their minimum viable product. Yeah, they've got Squadron 42, but that's where a lot of people also, I feel like I do this every office hours, but I'll do it again. Squadron 42 and Star Citizen are the same game. They are the same game. They're not fundamentally the same. They are the same fucking game, down to their architecture. They are the same game. They used to be part of the same game, and they split them off into 2 packages. It's literally the same game. The difference is that Star Citizen is online, and Squadron 42 is a single-player game. That's it. They use the same code. They use the same architecture. They use the same animations. They use the same voice lines in some cases. Like, they are the same fucking game. So whenever someone's like, well, we don't know about Squadron 42, what does Star Citizen look like right now? That's what Squadron is. Maybe a couple of months ahead. No, so I don't think Squadron 42 will have to be an online only to play the game. They're just saving time by using Star Citizen's architecture that already exists to work as, to build on top of that. They've even said the way it's going to work is your computer will spin up a server on your computer, and then your player character will then be a client inside that server. They're using PES, for instance, as a save game feature, so that they're going to create another server, a back-end service on your computer. They haven't explained this, to be fair. This is just my interpretation, where you will save your game to a back-end service, which will then exist on your computer and then stream back in and out. O7 Paul, 3.18 dropping a patch G tomorrow. Impressive to go to A to G in 1 week. They're cooking. They are. And the reason why is because, I think it's because of what they said on ISC. But they had some old tech that they were using, and they updated that tool to be a little bit better now, and now they can just drop bop, 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 bop much faster. Squadron 42 coming in Q4 2024. I think that's what CIG wants, but I'm always a little bit more hesitant compared to what CIG wants. So my interpretation is probably more like Q4 2025 would be my guess. Smart move to do 2 games for the price of 1. Well, it's also when CIG sells the single player game Squadron 42, they're going to sell it to people who don't know about Star Citizen. And they'll probably do pretty well in terms of sales just because it's a myth that Star Citizen or everyone who would have bought Squadron 42 has bought Squadron 42. Because people said the same damn thing about Star Citizen, and it's still increasing. Most even Star Citizen fans, the average casual Star Citizen fan, probably doesn't even know that Squadron 42 exists. So when Squadron 42 comes out, they will hit it with a blitz campaign. An ad campaign will happen because they've got Mark Hamill, John Rhys Davies, Gillian Anderson, freaking Mark Strong, with Liam Cunningham. Like it's a huge, impressive cast list for what they have. Yeah, server nashing is not new tech. It's new tech for Star Citizen, but it's not something that was invented out of thin air. It exists in WoW, for fuck's sake. When you know Paul has a bigger beard than me, we're on DEF CON 5. Yeah, I'm not going to shave today. I'm going to shave tomorrow morning because I'm going to get a haircut tomorrow afternoon. Do you think they'll release Squadron 42 on Steam? Yes, but not initially. They'll release Squadron 42 on Steam maybe a year or 2 after it's already launched. Do you think Star Citizen will ever go free to play, such as starting a planet with no ship? Nope, I don't think they'll do that. Unless they're desperate enough. Question, if this free fly Star Citizen was well advertised in my YouTube adverts were to play it, do you see any adverts yourself? No, because I have ad blockers. But I didn't, but I know a lot of people reported it. And that's because CIG has been slowly amping up their advertisement campaign on YouTube, which is smart. And I've said this many times before. For those of you who don't know, I myself have some experience in marketing. So whenever I see someone shitting on marketing, I always want to hurt somebody. Just be like, fuck you guys. Oh, well, Star Citizen is, marketing. It's all about money and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's not exactly what it is. That's not it at all. There are marketing executives who are idiots, but that's not exclusive to having a fancy suit. But my experience, as minor as it is, in advertising, not advertising, in marketing, not advertising, I'm not an advertiser. You didn't see ads, Jin? Okay. YouTube is a fantastic ad source because the purpose of advertising is to generate clicks and to generate interest. There's no point in doing an advertising to pay any money if you don't think you're going to get an investment back on your, get something back on your investment for that ad. And per dollar basis, YouTube is going to get in front of more eyes than any other source in the internet today. Something like 80% of all streaming goes through YouTube. On the internet, all streaming on the internet, the entire global internet is YouTube. It's nuts how much market share they have. So, and they're really cheap to advertise on compared to television and movies and billboards and that kind of stuff, because they're seen as new tech still, because the people who run marketing companies are literally ancient, in their 90s, and still try to use email chains rather than social media, which blows my fucking mind sometimes. But so they're literally spending nothing and getting an amazing amount of eyes back on them. So no, Twitch is better for live streaming, but streaming videos, YouTube. Two different things. Twitch is 90% or 80 to 90% of the live streaming content. Video streaming services is almost 80% YouTube. They have. And I can almost guarantee you they've probably not increased their marketing budget almost at all. Last I checked, their marketing budget was a joke. It was lumped in with like rent and lights. Like $2 million, but it was like all services and marketing. Like the fact that they have anything, any marketing at all is a goddamn, like a miracle. Oh no, we were talking about, I'm basically saying someone asked about YouTube ads for Star Citizen. And I said that they exist and CIG's been doing more and more of them. And it's a good thing because there's a lot more return on investment from YouTube, because like 80% of all video streaming, that includes like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all of those other ones, is YouTube. They have a massive share of that market because it's free. And it's the OG at this point. But Twitch is, someone said, but isn't Twitch bigger? It's like, it's bigger for live streaming content. Streaming videos and live streaming are two different things. Yeah, and that's true too. People who make content for YouTube or Twitch are free advertising for CIG as well. And often they get for a low price of just chucking us a ship to give away, which is practically free on their end. CIG hasn't paid me shit to do this, aside from giving me on average one ship a month to give away. Wouldn't the brochures and info on the website be done in part by marketing? Yeah, probably a copywriter, and they definitely are part of that process. But those aren't really marketing. This is kind of like sales materials, like promotional materials. No one outside of Star Citizen's fan base is going to go read the brochure on the Spirit. You know? People can barely use the website. And shut the fuck up. All of you are sinners. None of you are without sin. Block. And I, on average, have won 0 ships in 3 years. Are you going to host a weekly event of letting people all scrape your Redeemer? I might. For those of you who are new, who have no idea what just happened or what the hell I'm talking about, there's a long-running meme at this point because I hate the Redeemer. I hate it. I think it's the worst ship in Star Citizen for many reasons. And none of them are its attributes in game, which are apparently good. And so CIG thought it would be funny to give me an unmeltable, ungiftable, unupgradable Redeemer. I have a Redeemer that is going to last me longer than my life. It will be in my account as long as that website is up. And it was entirely, the brainchild of Fairasalt, because Fairasalt is an Australian, and Australians like to cause pain to other people. If I hit the Corsair, do the odds of me winning increase? Maybe. They're so thoughtful and considerate. They even call it Paul's favorite ship. It's the name of the thing they gave it to me. All right. Before we get started on the rest of this, I'm going to pull the winner for the Gleam giveaway from last month. Speaking of ships. And the winner is Robert. Let's see. That's their first name. They go by, let me see if I can find a good, I know they live in Ohio. Oh, Robert Vos. If that's their name on Twitch. Robert VOHS. Robert, I know, I recognize the name. You've definitely been around. It's a name I recognize on Twitch. What are they? Did they do the Discord? Deepa with the 10 more memberships. Nope. They do not have Discord. They just have YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. I'll message them on Twitch. Copy. Boom. Sent him. Sent it. No, Omega's the one who's watching in the room. Thank you so much for gifting those subs there, Deepa. You gift, I gift. Thank you. Infrunners, that's why you're naming the Redeemer Fuck You Execute. Yes, that's exactly the reason why. Oh, it's Garu on Discord. Okay, I'll message you on there. Anyways, there we are. Just give me an email to send it to, and I'll send it to you. Came here from Twitter. New to the game, interested in the lore. Ask away, Loot Goblin. We're going to be moving on to do some IAC and stuff like that, but ask me any questions. They used to talk about retiring older ships and releasing newer models in game, like making the 2052 Constellation or something. Did you see them retiring the Redeemer, making it so that you bought it anymore, but people who have it can keep it, and selling more aesthetically pleasing replacement? Yes. I think that's more likely what we're going to see with certain ships going forward. Instead of them going back and like redoing the gold standard every time they need an update, they're just going to say, this is the ship, deal with it. And then, you know, once they bring it up to the basic standards, and then any new versions of the ship will just be a completely separate ship. You should call it the Irredeemable. I think you're the first person. Is game packages equals character slots? We don't know. As far as we know, yes. Loot Goblin, you were the first person to have come from Twitter. Oh yeah, that reminds me. One of the people who I actively listen to and follow, who does Warhammer 40k lore, Oculus Imperia, they followed me on Twitter, and I'm just like, what? Sir, what is this? Why? That's the side, kind of the part of the like content creator verse that I have no connections to. like, I follow a lot of people there. And I know as a content creator that those people are real people and they have their own lives and everything else like that. But I was not expecting for another lore content creator of that caliber and size to follow me, because I just make shitty little videos about lore of Star Citizen, which is just a scam. especially after like the one other big name in the lore, like lore video community just absolutely took a giant steaming, like, diarrhea turd all over Star Citizen's lore. I joined at the start of the free flight event, ended up with 4 ships. Okay, so you did the Star Citizen thing where you're like, this is neat, and then suddenly you end up with 4 ships. You're like, how did I do this? Where did all this stuff come from? They're great little videos. Stop your being mean to yourself and your content. This is a threat. Kojima retweeted Spleen the other day. I thought it was neat. Yeah. I must ask, what do the challenge coins give you in Best in Show? A challenge coin? What happened? I had to leave the bathroom. Oh, it's Twitter thing. It's just with that content creator I've been following for a long time who does lore for another universe followed me, and I was like, okay, I am not worthy of this, but okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Luna Maria. Yeah, Senpai noticed me. Noticed it. I feel bad for Level Cap, because Level Cap either got paid or just wanted to play Darktide the day it came out, and he was playing it with Luton, because I know they knew each other because Luton used to do Battlefield videos. People forget that. People don't realize that. That's how long I've been following Luton, when he was making Battlefield videos before he did full-time Warhammer lore. But if anyone knows anything about Luton and Warhammer lore, he will make an 1.5-hour video on, like, the las gun. You know, it'd be like me making an 1.5-hour video on the P4 AR. I couldn't do it, but I could get close. Yeah, Space God. It was Space Doc. No, it wasn't Space Doc. It was Space Doc is pretty neutral about Star Citizen. It was Templin Institute, Space Goat. The ones I need, I can stop whenever I want. Yes, I know, Loot Goblin. Hence the name. Yeah, he's the highest tier. So he was playing with Level Cap, playing Darktide, and joked about here wanting Luton to stay in the corner and give an hour-long speech about the lore of the Hive City. And I'm like, oh my god, I have flashbacks to the time I sat down with Level Cap and explained lore to him for an hour. That man just jumps from lore expert to a lore expert. Who's just like, all right, you got 17 hours. We're going to teach you this. I would watch an hour-long P4AR video. Hey, welcome, Loken. Thanks for the raid. Level Cap just like story time, and honestly, same. We were just talking about Oculus. I don't know if you know Oculus Imperia, the guy who does. He followed me on Twitter, and my brain broke. So I could do 90 minutes on the med pen. I could. I'd hate myself, but I could. The best thing about Axis Superior is the streamer started playing Chaos Gate and had just been sucked into 40k's lore, and a regular's chat happened to be a mod in Oculus' stream, and the gracious gentleman guest streamed with him to do Q&A about 40k lore, streamers in hog heaven. That's great. When your crush follows you. Listen. It's not every day that a fellow queer lore master follows you on Twitter. But honestly, welcome everyone from Loken Stream. Like Luke Goblin was here earlier asking, if y'all want to ask questions about Star Citizen lore, go for it. I'm here. I am here for you. But I'm going to get set up with the IAE while we're doing that. And Loken, tomorrow I'm playing some Darktide, and you're joining me. This is a threat. You were joining me. Do I have to just, if I have to shank one of your regulars to get into your party, I'll do it. I've asked this before, but what's the Corsair lore? Is it new? We don't 100% know about the Corsair. It's implied that it's new. And based off of Drake's own lore, I'm fairly certain it was built in the 2940s. Speaking of med pens, I love how the C8R has a nice little stash of it. I wish I had more ships today. Yeah, it's nice. What gang did Bob join? It's hard to tell. Let me look up the different gangs that I have listed somewhere. No, I don't want Pyro Multi-Tool. I want Pyro. Pyro System. All right. There was one that I tried to, I remember, but I don't remember the name of them. Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. I have to go look into my other notes for that one. But yes. She's likely not a member of Xenothreat. Or they are likely not a member of Xenothreat. They're probably not a member of the Fire Rats. They would be a lot more naked and a lot more crazy. Probably not a member of the Enforcers. I always call them the Enforcers. I don't remember their real name. There is one group of outlaws in Pyro who is the most normal group, which is probably what they're from. Started with Adventure Titan, got to the Corsair because my friends joined me and wanted to do something for us. Got the C8R because it was fun to fly and convenient for bunkers, and the Cutter because I love Drake's design. You know your C8R can fit inside your Corsair? You're welcome. Logan's being shanghaied. Bob is one of my new favorite characters. Bob is just as done with Jax's bullshit. That's what it is. Praise Bob. You realize that Jax is responsible for 2 different ship prototypes being lost in a year? No wonder he takes so long to get concept ships. The good guy back, the Overlords, thank you. Bob is definitely not from the Overlords. The Overlords are very, very... Bob may be from the Citizens for Pyro, which is itself a gang, sort of. Probably not, because Bob also decided to attack Jax, and the Citizens for Pyro wouldn't do that. Hang on, what have I been volunteered for? I just got back. Oh, I just said that We're going to play Darktide tomorrow. And that's a threat. I don't care who I have to shank in your stream to get a slot to play with you, but we're going to do that. I finally found a Thunderhammer and a good outfit for my Zealot, so I'm ready to go. Bob and Church of the Subgeniuses? Yes. Which group are the ones with cannibals with? It's hard to tell. Like, there's a lot of gangs that they haven't told us a lot about. There may be, we're gonna go over the videos here, but I think the cannibals are likely. I think there was something like the Revenant or the Reavers that exist. That sounds about right. Darktide is rough with pugs. But here's some fun ones that I like. So the Screaming Galsons are a pirate group. The Sangastas are a group of Lago in the Nexus system, and they named the gas giant in the Nexus system the Red God because they believe it has spiritual powers. Pirates are superstitious. Then there is the Argul Dawn. Argul Dawn. Way to wear your frickin' inspiration on your sleeve there, CIG. They're the gang that owned Echo 11 Nexus. Let's see, what else do we have? Dawn, D-A-W-N. Argul, A-R-G-U-L, Dawn, D-A-W-N. Sound familiar? No? Darksiders 2 is one. My high pitch S. Sound familiar? Argent Dawn, yeah. Argel Tall from Warhammer. There's a lot of different, like, all nerd stuff. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Thank you, Donnie. How you doing, Donnie? Hopefully you're sleeping. I tell that to Eric. He doesn't listen to me, but, you know, sleep, Donnie. I saw you cameo, by the way, Donnie. You're in one of the ISCs. Your Moby showed up. That was nice. I've been around. I mean, you're like 3 years in now, Donnie. Like 3 or 4 years in, you've not just been around. You're an old man in the company now. I was telling Jake that. I was like, Jake, you're no longer the newbie. You're now an old grizzled veteran of CIG. Who's my favorite manufacturer? That's simple, very easy. It's Drake for ships and Castak for everything else, because those two combined, mwah, aesthetically pleasing. Who's my least favorite manufacturer? Aegis. For lore reasons, aesthetic only. Only for lore reasons. Because Aegis is like evil. And they're not evil in the sense that they're like, yes, they're like the most egregious, like, we're gonna look like the good guys and do a bunch of war crimes and be complicit in a bunch of war crimes and make a bunch of stuff explicitly for war crimes and then get away with everything because we just happen to be useful. What do I think a Castech heavy FPS armor would look like? It would look like a box. It would look like an armored box. War Crimes Dynamics, yes. No, you know what? Castech Arms is the definition of capitalist, but they wear it on their sleeve. Castech Arms is the company that will sell guns to both sides of a conflict and somehow still make it out scot-free. And they'll admit it to it. They'll tell everyone straight to their face, yeah, I sold it to both of you. Whoever wins, wins. You're just the best. How's life? It's going good. I got a new house now, Donnie. I'm burning down the year. Only got about 3 weeks left of school until the end of the semester, so. Is there any way to get flair for the ships other than the subscribers? No, because even to get it, you have to purchase it. You have to have a subscription in the first place. Thanks, Puppet. Yeah, I mean, it's about 2 years old now, but. Thank you, Deepo. Guns don't kill people. Husbands that come home early do. Thesis grading time? Not quite yet. We've got our finals, midterm finals, in 2 weeks, so I'm still wrapping up the last bit of content before we go on break. Oh, Chewed Toy rated? It doesn't show up on my thing, so. Chewed Toy, thank you so much for that raid. How you doing, Chewed Toy? They make the Citadel armor, which is heavy set? All right. Now, keep asking questions. I may miss your question, but I'm going to go over the ISC, and then we're going to look over all of the current, all of the videos from this year's Jack's videos from ISC.
Well, builds can break for a ton of reasons. It's not a point of pride that, you know, I start to rattle off a whole bunch of different things that break builds, because my whole vocation is to create tools, to create pipelines, and to create processes that don't break builds, that are very, very dependent. But in a perfect world, that might be the case, but in the reality of things, it can be so many things. There can be a perforce.
It's Sean. Fun fact. The one time I've known Sean is that he doesn't clean his dishes. And his famous quote is, I want solutions. You've given me all these problems. I want solutions to the problems, as a joke to QA.
Force commit that completely destroys it. There's so many different types of errors. There can be a compilation error that fails the build. There can be build errors that have nothing.
Also, him and his brother made MechWarrior Living Legends. So if you like MechWarrior, he's a big MechWarrior fan. He's my brother in Mecha, and I hope he wins his fight to get Mecha into the Star Citizen.
Nothing to do with the actual game data itself. We're trying to move away from these kind of things, but having assets, single points of failures on certain assets. So a good example is like in our facial data, we use a thing called a DNA Raptiformer, and it literally just came up this last week that there was a Raptiformer attachment checked in that didn't have an LOD. Any face that was attaching this would fatal the entire game. As soon as QA got into it, every 2 seconds, they were having a fatal error, which means the entire build sort of shut down on them, and they couldn't proceed with their testing. So this is one of the reasons that we put those asset validations and those things in place. There is a lot of reason that builds fail, and, you know, part of the tool's job is making sure that those don't happen.
You didn't know that he did it? Yeah. He's a big mech fan. Someone asked, what other companies aside from Aegis suffered from the downfall of Mezzers? A lot of them. RSI did a little bit, but the thing is that there's this period in time between the end of the Mezzers and like the 2890s that CIG has not labeled, but is heavily implied that I like to call the cargo crisis. The cargo crisis of the 29th century, because a bunch of companies went under that were with the Mezzers, that were closely tied to the Mezzers. And so a lot of the civilian transports that existed pre-Mezzer era or like pre-modern era are gone. They just don't exist anymore because those companies either went out of business because they're too tied to the Mezzers, or the parts manufacturers that were building those ships went out of business, which caused those ships to go out of business. So that's the reason why almost all of the ships in the verse are from companies that are companies that are less than 200 years old, because a lot of the older companies got purged except for RSI, Kruger, but they didn't make ships at the time, but Argo and Aegis. Those are the ones that are left. Is there a detailed visual timeline that exists in Star Citizen lore? Sort of. There's a couple of different timelines that players have tried to put together that exist, but I don't think they've been updated in a while. Hello, sorry about you guys. Do you guys do Bar Citizen? No. BarCitizen.sc is the one you want to go to. Yeah, rip Case Aerospace. The economy kind of broke during the lynchings. Yeah, when you're constantly going out and killing anyone who had any kind of dealings with the Mezzers, you kind of end up with no companies left. It might be a little bit of a desync, and that's probably on my end, honestly.
So what is a build? The easiest way to understand a build is everybody's heard of code compiling before, and that is there's raw code that is written, and then it gets run through a compiler, and then out comes a binary or an executable as people would understand it. The same actually happens with our assets. So sometimes our assets come through and they'll be in an intermediate type format, and then those will get sent over to the build system to be compressed in such a way that it's actually a lot easier for us to deliver the build to users, and for the build to actually be able to run a lot quicker.
In order to distribute a version of the game to all the developers so that we can continue producing the game, we create what we call a build many times a day. As work is completed, it gets submitted to our source control system.
That's a good shirt.
Which is basically
that's
a
worship
way of
coffee.
just
I like
holding
it.
all of the assets, all of the code, everything that goes into producing the game. This obviously is being done by hundreds of developers in different studios across the world.
So when a developer comes in the morning, they need to be able to depend on the build for the day. And the first build of the day, they're going to expect that all the stuff that they checked in the night before is actually present in that build so that they can continue to iterate on what they've been working on. So a build failing is a big deal. It actually brings down the entirety of the company on that particular change list. So,
Johnny, question, you don't have to answer it if you can't answer it. Is what they're talking about here, what they're going to be bringing up here, because I've already watched this, so I kind of know. The tool that they revamped, is that the reason why there's been a patch a day, like a 318 patch a day for the last week?
So there's a whole bunch of ways that we actually protect the build against failures like this. We run the assets through something called asset validation, and what this is a pre-commit check. You can also call it health checks for the assets. So we run these through. What is this validation? It checks for all the common errors that we would possibly make to the data.
And it's very important because when you're developing in the editor, it can check what you're doing within that one level, but it can't look at a holistic approach. So the editor itself will produce various checks to make sure that what's exported.
So for me, the answer is lengthy. Because of this, I'm afraid I cannot say. I seek to be accurate respectfully. Okay, that makes sense.
In good shape. But the asset validator is very much a complement to that, checking things that they cannot check.
Thank you for gifting 20 memberships.
And then, if there's no errors, it allows them to commit it. If there is errors, it tells them exactly what to do about it. They go and fix it, and then are able to commit again, and we should be safe on the build. So we had a tool in place since I got here to CIG, actually, and it started as a very, very...
I've been doing QA for 20 years, not for CIG, but these guys are the most legit so far, or at least the most relatable. These two folks, yeah.
Small little Python script. And over time, as with any tool, it got a little more robust, but as it got robust, it also got very confusing. to continue to build out.
It's showing its age. There's been a lack of structure to it, and it's been very difficult to maintain and to keep
I'm
up
back
to
up a little
date.
bit and see what.
So what we wanted to do was make sure that not only was it just the tools team able to write asset validation, but also the rest of the
asset validation tool. Okay.
teams. And what that required was a more robust framework. It's sort of a plug-in kind of approach. So we moved it from Python over to C#, and now we have much, much broader adoption for all the teams so that they can write their own level.
I'm afraid they're going to give us this news now to soften the blow for the build gets delayed. This was possibly recorded 2 weeks ago. The recordings of ISCs do not correspond with the release of them. For instance, there was that recording of the Ninetales lockdown. No, not lockdown. Siege of Orison, the Siege of Orison, where they talked about the change of the Siege of Orison, which came out at the end of Siege of Orison. After Siege of Orison, the new Siege of Orison had already been run. Okay, and now I'm gonna have to mute things, Deepa. All right, let me do it real quick. I can't. Just gonna keep going. After this, I'll take it for runner soon. I can't. Oh, I know. I can do it. I can do it. There we go.
Levels of asset validation within the tool as well.
So of course a big win for the tools team here is that we don't need to create all these tests. We can allow the experts in the other teams to do it for us.
Other teams among the company, as we've scaled up quite a bit comparatively to the older tools, can actually write asset validation.
I wonder if they're planning to update scale events like Siege of Ninetales because of they probably will. I mean, they're already doing it with Jumptown. Jumptown's massive now. As a software developer, I fully understand just how complicated code can get when left unchecked. Technical debt can be frightening. Yeah, CIG's been doing a pretty good job of tech debt. They take a lot of time to go through and work through their tech debt. And CIG's got two major things that's going for them. Number one, most of the systems they have now are completely obsolete. They're going to be replaced entirely with new systems. There's a couple of systems that they've put on recently that are brand new that they're going to have to keep up to date with tech debt. But for instance, ships aren't even in their full final form yet. So there's not as much tech debt that can compile. Like you can't have tech debt if you're going to replace everything you've already built. But like the MOBA glass, for instance, is completely going to get replaced with the new system that they built that I always forget the name of, but it's not non-flash based. So building blocks. Thank you. This is not even my final form. It's the most this meme of you don't have to have tech debt if you replace the entire thing.
Inside of this framework. So this was a really important part of the new tool. Now it does everything that the old one already did, but now our scalability is so much broader.
So as we continue to develop Star Citizen, we get ever more complicated systems and therefore ever more complicated assets, and in particular dependencies between them get ever more convoluted. So it's very important that we can have a scalable system that allows contribution from everybody to help address the potential issues that this could incur.
So the exact same way as a player might be excited for a feature coming from a feature team within CIG, we have developers excited for a tool that may be coming from the tools developer within CIG.
Rastar and procedural terrain generation tool, baby. Sorry, those are really hyped ones. I'm a nerd.
Very much the same paradigm. So when we bring up new asset validation, they appreciate having this because they need to know about those errors up front. They don't want to wait for the build to fail, for some producer to come to their desk and go, why has this failed? Why has your asset not worked out? For players especially, this is going to matter for you because as you've been waiting for a PTU build or an ePTU build, these failed builds slow these things down. And if we can't review them, we can't QA internally, that means a release doesn't go out. So we're trying to nab it right at the very beginning. So that developer knowing that there is a problem before it hits the build, before it fails to the build, and before it delays a release for you guys. So the tools team is incredibly important as far as the developers, players, and builds go. And hopefully this means more builds will make it to players' hands.
I hope you've enjoyed this brief look into the tools team and one of our products, and hope to see you again in the verse.
Well, much
Before we get to that, what will be mining be like in Pyro? Will we have a big belt running through the system like Stanton? Yes, there is I think there's a big belt that runs through Stanton. It'll probably be mostly the same minerals, but it'll be likely higher value. They're going to change the entire economy is going to change when Pyro comes out. So a lot of the minerals that you find in Stanton will no longer be as valuable or be as common. Like Quantanium is not going to be as valuable as it is now. Because Quantanium at its core is the basic building blocks for quantum fuel. And so while you want quantum fuel to be valuable, you also don't want it to be so rare that you would never find it. So if it's more common, it won't be as expensive. It's got to be somewhat inexpensive. So it's going to end up probably being kind of a mid-tier commodity compared to other ones. And you will only be able to find those top tier commodities in Pyro when they release it. So they can encourage players to go out to Pyro to mine it.
much of Star Citizen's continuing development is dedicated to creating gameplay systems like cargo and salvage, new locations like rivers, sand caves.
Honestly, I just wish they would stop making the door buttons even smaller. They could probably increase the size of them a little bit. I saw your comment on it earlier, and I'm like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with moving it to the doors rather than being like the like ramp itself. But I can understand like it being a little too small to see sometimes. So we see 20 or 30K mass rocks that will take more teamwork, probably, almost certainly. And you'll probably see much higher value, so you could probably make a shit ton more money, but you're going to also have to travel twice as long, probably more like 5 to 10 times as distance as you normally do, to be able to get those rocks from where you are in Pyro to Stanton to an actual facility that will refine it for a decent price. So fuel is going to be a concern. You're pretty much going to be, if you want to make the most money, you're going to have to work with other people and, you know, including things like protection, because there'll be NPCs and players who will try to attack you for it because there's no law. You'll need fuel resources, so like a starfare or something like that. There'll be some other things. But the name has to be common, or a tiny bit of it makes a lot of fuel. Exactly. And CIG's already said that they don't want to make Quantanium so expensive that it is the most valuable commodity ever, but they don't want to make it so rare, so common that it has no value. It has to be somewhere in the middle.
And crash sites, missions like the new prison escape, the Origin platform stuff, the time trial races, and everything else that's heading our way in the upcoming Alpha 3.18. The folks that are focused on the making and iteration of tools to help the very process of game creation.
Quantanium is the oil of the verse. It is, but more like the oil of the verse as oil was 30, 40 years ago, where it was the cheapest option for what you wanted to do with it. Not as rare as it is today, which price goes up. But even then, it's not that rare. It's just artificially inflated. Same concept, you know.
Itself are an essential element of the game dev gumbo that we make here. And we're always thrilled when we can give them a few minutes to shine. But up next, the long-awaited, often rumored, Polaris concept model internal layout rework. Now, it's not a series of new concept images like those that were created for the 600i we showcased a few weeks ago, but this is a down-in-the-rough 3D Max model look at the reworked concept mesh to explore the new internal layout so potential pirates can begin plotting out their boarding actions. Enjoy.
Wonder how many takes it took them.
The Polaris is obviously a really, really old concept. It's been around for a very, very long time. It was one of the more early ships that we did the exterior concept art for.
The Polaris came out in, I think, 2017. Lots of features have been added to the game since then that were not known about at that time or couldn't be planned for if they were known about.
Like a lot of the older ships, the interior just didn't fit. We couldn't get the size, the scale.
2016. 20 goddamn 16.
All the metrics for how we would want it to appear to actually fit inside the frame that we had.
We've really now locked in how we want the interior layout, what the impact to the exterior means, but it's still the same Polaris that everyone originally saw and fell in love with.
My brain never works, because I thought it was released in 2016 at CitizenCon, but 2018 was CitizenCon Austin, and 2016 was CitizenCon LA. And I was at the 2016 and 2018. That's 2017, but I remember the Polaris being at the 2016. Yeah, it was October 2016. I'm pretty sure it was. What was the concept sale for 2016? I thought it was. The Militia Mobilization Initiative unveiling. Yeah. What's a Corvette class? So a Corvette class is something that is technically a capital ship, but it's the smallest size of capital ship. So it's something, basically it has capital ship components. What makes a capital ship is its components.
With it just means that now it's kind of fit for purpose, whereas with the initial
25 and 46, so it was definitely 2016. I was right. There we go.
Concepting phase and initial layout, it wasn't quite where we needed it to be.
The exterior remains pretty much the same, beyond it has got larger to accommodate some of the interior changes. The role is the same, the key visuals are the same. You may notice, again, some like panel line changes or turret updates. But fundamentally, you look at the Polaris now versus then, it's almost indistinguishable aside from that scale change, and the role remains identical to what it was before.
Moving on the inside, however, we have a completely different story. Although there wasn't much seen.
Are capital components bespoke? Have they mentioned that before? They seem to have mentioned in this video that you cannot replace and swap out capital components. They seem to be built into the ship, so that you do not have the ability to swap out a capital ship power plant for another capital ship power plant. That seems to be the situation. I'm not sure, though, because they mentioned that the old 0 to 10 system is now thrown out the window. So,
for what the inside was going to look like, we had to remove a lot of that and just start again. We fit the entirety of the interior inside of it while taking into account the change in component sizes,
where we went from size 0 all the way up to size 10, whereas now we've got much more kind of distinct categorization of our components.
We've now got a capital shield generator, capital power plant, capital cooler, all to support the actual size of the ship and the scale of it, especially for what its role is within the actual universe.
Also, there doesn't seem to be a capital-sized dry dock hangar. No, there won't be, because you won't be able to despawn most capital ships.
So, talking layout, we don't have concept images for every single room within the ship, but I can give you an estimation of what you can expect from it. So, you start from the bridge, which has been opened up a bit to give you a bit more space and visibility. Behind that, we then have the escape pod section, where there's escape pods for all the crew to be able to quickly evacuate the ship. Moving behind that, we then have the captain's quarters and office, as well as the CO's office. Behind that again, we then have the armory. Moving further back, we have the crew bunk room and baths and showers. Across from that, we then have the rec area. So it's where the food is, it's where the relaxation is for the actual crew of the ship. Moving back further, we then come towards the center of the ship, where the actual hangar of the Polaris is. And that's had a bit of a size increase, so that it's very comfortable to fit things like a Sabre in it now. On the left and right-hand side, on one side, you have the medical facilities. On the other, you have the holding cells for any prisoners or wrongdoers that you might get hold of. And then moving back, you then have the entrance of where engineering is, which spans about 2 decks. A small section of it is at the rear, which houses some of the more standard components.
This ship is so big. The components are so big that it takes up half the damn ship. Most of the ship is just its engines and its docking or its hangar. That's nuts.
Then the lower deck of engineering holds the large capital components for the Polaris. Moving back forward then from the rear, we then have the cargo hold.
Number of people.
Moving forward from the cargo area, we then have the torpedo room, which has all of the torpedoes stored and an operations station if anyone needs to maintain any work down there.
All right, so this is where lore and gameplay correspond. Someone's asked what this ship's supposed to do. So the Polaris is a recon corvette. Its main job is to patrol systems and ensure the peace, but also to patrol in front of the fleet to try to recon and force, to try to go out and poke the bear and see what's going on. And to do that, it has capital ship components, but it, unlike the Idris, it's smaller, so it can fit into better things. It's harder to hit. It has a smaller crew requirement, and it swaps out the giant railgun for capital ship torpedoes, size 9, size 10s. These huge torpedoes are designed to take on capital ships. And it swaps out armor for speed and maneuverability for a capital ship. So this is the replacement for the Idris going forward. It's a fleet screen, yes. And this is a brand new ship from RSI. It was built in 2946. It was fast-tracked in 2946 after the Battle of Vega. So this is like, in lore, this is a brand new state-of-the-art ship that just came out. 28 size 10s, yeah.
So the Polaris is concept complete. We're pretty happy with the updates to it internally, and hope you are as well. And now we are just at the point of scheduling when we can jump it into production. It's naturally a large ship, slightly larger than it was. So it's not going to be a quick endeavor, but we think it's going to be a pretty fruitful one by the end of it.
The lessons that we've learned over the years from the evolution of making ships and their interiors have all come into play when we've done the Polaris. And I can't wait for people to be able to see it.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned a bit about the build system, how it can break, how it affects development, and how the new asset validation tool and the work of the tools teams themselves aim to combat that day in and day out. That the Polaris concept model internal layout rework is the last necessary step before that much beloved vehicle can move into production proper sometime in the future. And that if you want more information about the process of ship creation and everything that's involved, including a detailed breakdown of the newly revamped vehicle pipeline and a candid discussion of the where, when, and why of all things making spaceships, be sure you check out this year's IAE Special Edition Star Citizen Live up on YouTube. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
All right. So effectively, like the couple things you should understand. What the fuck who is still? Oh no, I think I just have it muted. It's like, yeah, I just don't have it muted here. There we go. So effectively what we just saw, and to kind of give you the quick and dirty summary of what this was that the Polaris is getting an overhaul. They've been working on the interior. They just need people to work on it now, and the tools are important. And talk to Tree. Tree's 0311 does a lot of this on his own podcast and stuff like that, but you have to understand how important tools are for Star Citizen. The game is tools. The more tools they have, the faster they can build things. We joke about they put some sort of amphetamines into the poutine in Montreal, but the reason why Montreal is working so fast is because they're using the tools that were already developed for the game, and then developing their own tools to go along with that to speed up their process. So Montreal is like, you say, oh wow, Montreal could turn around these things in a couple months. Yes, because that's what happens when you have tools and then a team dedicated to just using those tools. That's what happens. So whenever someone says, oh, well, it's going to take 400 years for them to get out systems, I'm like, they can get out a system in probably 2 weeks. With the tools they have in place, as long as they have the lore and, the mocap for some of that stuff, they can chunk out a system in no time. The issue is more other aspects of the game. The actual building of the game is not going to take that long once they have the tools ready. And they've already proven that, so. Point most people miss while worshiping Montreal, yeah. Question, do you think they will work on the Perseus and the Galaxy in parallel? we actually talked about this on the captain's table. I think we all agreed that the Galaxy is the test bed for the new large ship palette for RSI, because there's a bunch of larger ships for RSI which haven't been. They're in concept, but they need some sort of thing to pull it together. So they made the Galaxy as a means to pull a lot of those ideas together. Hey, I have to cheer for them. I'm from here. It's biased. Do you think CIG is going to sell tools long term? It depends, because I'm sure a lot of CIG's tools work because they work with CIG's other tools that work on tools, and it works with their workflow. So they may, but they may also have a contract with Amazon to give them those tools as part of them using the engine. Tools are for designers, tool making is for engineers. Yeah, and that's why when you talk to Jake about this, when he does a lot of the roadmap stuff, he will tell you there is an upstream team and a downstream team. The upstream team makes the tools, the downstream team uses the tools. So the stuff that's being built for upstream is eventually going to get down to downstream to be able to use it. Galaxy's Carrack size, it's on the low end of the big ship scale, which makes it a pretty good ship to build when you're dealing with, because it's going to be faster to build that than it's going to be the Perseus. Well, Perseus, but it's probably the same. But there's a lot more added to the Galaxy than there is to the Perseus. There's a lot more detail there. And the Polaris is probably easier too. Aren't they supposed to set up private servers at some point? They planned on having private servers for people to use at some point. But because of the legalese that deals with Amazon using Amazon's Lumberyard engine, any private server will have to go through AWS. So I think CIG plans on it, but that's a long ways away. And that's more of a future-proofing than it is required for the game. So someone who worked in toolchain dev, no. Tools tend to be bespoke and a ton hacky. You hear stories in the industry of, we made this tool and it was so good we made it into a product, but the key phrase is, then they made it into a product, often from the ground up. Thank you, Livewire Engineer. Yeah, because that would be my other thing that I remember was from... I forgot whose name is. The person who's in charge of... one of the people who's doing a lot of work for... PES and server meshing. That's what this is. They worked on the net code, which is a shitty term, but it's a term that we'll use because it's referenceable. But net code of Elder Scrolls Online. And someone mentioned that CIG should just buy the net code from Elder Scrolls Online and use it in Star Citizen. And they went on to explain, yeah, that's not how this works. You can't just take stuff from another game and put it into your game, because none of that fucking works like that. It'd be like taking a 6-cylinder engine and from a mid-sized sedan and trying to install it on a motorcycle. They're not even the same thing. Yeah, that's the exception that proves the rule of dodged it with their V10. They probably had to beat the shit out of that thing before they actually fixed it. I think they had a lot of ships with the same company batches. They get Drake this year, a bunch of Crusaders the year before. Could we see them Polaris and Galaxy at the same time? If they had enough resources, yes. We should buy a Mack Trucks drivetrain and install it in our crossover. ESO is trying to get their netcode right. PvP areas are laggy, yeah. Next year's probably the year of RSI. MISC is probably the year after that. The frame was the V10. Everything else was attached to it. I was just enjoying seeing the Polaris stuff, yeah. It's pretty good. All right. So, I'm going to see if I can find CIGs if they have the IAE videos for this year entirely for the playlist. And they do. So, we're going to go over the analysis of all of these videos. I'm going to pull out the little details in the background, what we can infer from it. 'Cause some of these are just Easter eggs and such. So, watch with me.
Liberty, ingenuity, equality. These ideals connect each and every one of us across this vast empire of stars. As such, I want you all to meet the 2952 Cutter from Drake Interplanetary.
You show him, Aiden.
This ship embodies those ideals that we are truly democratizing spaceflight.
Who needs to hire talent when the aerospace CEOs are dying to get on camera? Hey, Jimmy?
It's all about the hard-working people of the UEE. That's why we're excited to sponsor the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2952. See you in STEM.
What in the unholy hell? They think I'm dead? Unbelievable! Bob! I cannot believe.
Okay, so this planet itself, I'm going to pause this right now. This planet itself is, I think, one of the moons of Pyro. The one that was around the gas giant. I think it's one of that. It's that other, because it's a little bit more icy. So it's not one of the closer ones. It's probably the one that's kind of like it's kind of like Scotland. So Pyro 3, possibly, yeah, could be Pyro 3. It could also be Pyro 4 because that's also very icy.
That they moved on without me after everything I did for them. Would a call have killed them? Oh, hey, Jax, do you want to come back, host the show? I'm sorry, Jax can't take your call because he's dead. Bob! Bob, now, I need to take the Corsair.
Good one.
Yeah, I came out here to get inspired, and I've just been hanging around, tending to my garden, and pillaging and plundering with you lot.
Are you talking to me?
You don't understand, Bob. My bosses have killed me off screen. Yeah, I've got to get back to Stanton. Is this ship flight ready?
Whoa! Whoa, Jax! But you can't have my ship.
Oh, come on, Bob, you owe me. You stole my Odyssey right when I got to Pyro.
But you stole it back.
And crashed it.
And crashed it.
Well, fair point. Did the boys already chop that new Drake cutter?
No, I told you I'm keeping that one. I kind of like it. Handle's nice.
Bob! Please?
No.
But it's just sitting there.
You know what, Jax? Fine. If it'll keep you out of trouble.
She's got a tattoo of a dragon. Is she Ninetales? That's a question. That's probably a gang tat. So it's probably what she's a representative. Maybe a shipjacker. She's definitely a shipjacker because they definitely scrap it. Like they're talking about, they cut it up and stuff like that. Oh yeah, the mocap's so fucking good.
Trouble for a while. You can borrow the cutter.
Thank you, Bob.
I said borrow.
Thanks, Bob.
Jax.
Bye.
Don't fly angry.
Right. Are we on? Okay. Right. Jax McCleary here. Obviously, I'm not dead. Just thought you should know.
Yeah, they're snakes, but they also have like dragon stuff as well. So this is what Squad for. Yeah, no, this is what they're using. Talk about tools. This is them using the tools that they already have. This is tools for them in the game right now. Thank you, Bob.
Looks like we're going back to Stanton. Here we go! Okay. Throttle's over here. Interesting. That does make a little bit more sense. Okay. Here we go.
Very good. Drake quality.
Is it on?
I don't know.
Okay. So this is hard to tell, but it's obviously in space. From the initial things. It could be because they did tractor the numbers.
It was right where he said it was!
I love that ass expression. It's so good.
And to think, we tracked your little Drake ship here to kill you!
Boom! They're cannibals. The people said, oh, they're referencing cannibals. No, they're definitely cannibals. You also have this guy right here. This person is in pain and moving around.
I do know my way around an 890, and since your hideout's a derelict Origin super yacht, I may as well take advantage, so...
Come on, Jax! Stay for a treat!
It's kind of you, really. It is kind, but I've got to get back to Stanton, so I'll just say bye-bye.
We'd love to have you for dinner.
People asked if this was these the fire rats. Probably not. And I don't think they're the fire rats. Yeah. I think he found the hat in the stash that he was looking for.
Whoa. No need to resort to fisticuffs to decide whose Aegis ship is the better. No. For crying out loud. Go get in your damn ships. Come on. Let's take it to the tarmac, shall we? All right, then, friends. Gladius versus Saber.
Pyro 2. This is Pyro 2 because it's Sandy. This must be Pyro 2.
Let's settle this thing once and for all. Sans violence. I mean, I used to do this kind of thing on my show all the time. Are they ready?
Oh no, this is the same. I think this is the same planet he was on before. Yeah, because it's not Sandy. It's just Sandy there. Look at the background. It's probably Pyro 3 or Pyro 4 again.
Sounds good. See, we've arranged a tower of barrels for each ship to blast. Each ship has the standard factory loadout. So let's see how that Gellinson Mantis GT220... Maybe we should get out of here. Flip the cutter. Oh, there it is.
So good. It's one of the further away pyro. I think being close to pyro ain't great. Yeah.
It finally happened. I got hit with one of those famous pyro solar flares, and the cutter has frankly, well, not been herself. But by good fortune of the Banu god of backwaters, I found this marketplace.
The rocks right here. You see the rock right there? That's Pyro 2, isn't it? Pyro 2 or Pyro 3? Let me look it up. I'm gonna pull up each of these different systems. So it's definitely Pyro 3 was what they were on originally. And Pyro 4... could have been on Pyro 4. I think they were on Pyro 4 originally, and then Pyro 3 was the one where they had the other one. This is Pyro 1? Yeah, this is Pyro 1. So the rock there, the little standing rock, the interesting rock formation, indicates this is Pyro 1.
Ah, my good man. Do you happen to have a power coupling for a... Ooh. Are those Vandal parts? Now, tell me, are those Esperia replicas, or, are they the real deal?
You like to walk on the wild side, man? I can dig it. I can assure you these parts... Whoa. Are you recording this, man?
Oh, no, it's not what you think.
Whoa, not cool, man. Whoa, not cool.
But I'm super cool.
Whoa.
It's okay, I'm cool.
Couple of things to note. Pyro is on the border of a Vandal system, Virgil. So they would have access to Vandal parts because the Vandal probably raid into Pyro all the time. And also, Jax is totally being a narc here.
I am cool.
No, it's all wrong. Well, the RSI Galaxy prototype didn't show, and now the piece is a mess. Well, figure out how to punch this up while I go prep the anvil segment. Oh, come on, Jimmy, you're supposed to be good at this.
I hope this is not copyrighted music. I swear to God.
Pick yourself up, mate. No time to feel sorry for you. Hello?
Oh my god! Oh my god, this one is crazy! He's poking him with this.
Still alive! Oh, there's one of those new Anvil C8R ambulance snubs I've heard about.
Back up a little bit so you can kind of hear this. That's a Carrack. These are Carrack in the background. And this is a terrapin. These are terrapins. These are search and rescue terrapins. Do the That is a Crash Cutlass. It's a Cutlass engine. Back up a little bit.
There's one of those new... Oh!
That's also a crashed HAB unit. Someone crashed a freaking Cutlass into a HAB unit.
There's one of those new Anvil C8R ambulance snubs.
You can see right there in the background, that's definitely a Carrack.
I've heard about.
Oh, hey, Jimmy. Hey. Well, you've been watching these videos, right? Well, this one's crazy. Well, seriously? Oh, it's great stuff. Jax has been beaming it from Pyro.
This is one of the first times we've heard someone with not a British accent. They're very rare in Star Citizen. This is much more of a French Canadian accent there.
What? Well, we'll have you back out there, patched up and saving lives as soon as we possibly can.
Here's the question. How is Jax sending a live signal to Santon when signals aren't FTL? It's not live. They even said this is a video. So this is a pre-recorded. He's broadcasting it, but it's being bounced in to go over that.
If I can work out how to use this.
It says it's live, which means he's broadcasting it live, but it's not live by the time it gets to the people who are watching it. It's delayed.
Built-in medbed.
Jimmy? Where did he go?
Now, a local homesteader has kindly agreed to provide me with the parts I need for the cutter on the condition that I figure out what's wrong with his mole.
which is an oversight. Not really. Like I said, you can broadcast it live. There are other signals systems out there. They probably do have some sort of broadcast signals. But it would not get to Stanton until later. And they'd probably be pre-recorded as well. And this is the kind of stuff. Kind of like a live premiere and you pre-recorded. Yeah, kind of like that.
Now, in my experience, these Argo beasts rarely break down, so it's anybody's guess what the issue is. Okay, let's see what we can see.
This is definitely Pyro 2.
Good. Okay.
Definitely Pyro 2. Let me look at my Pyro 2 reference. Yep, this is almost certainly Pyro 2. Yeah, these are Thorshoe Greys.
Okay. Almost got it. Oh! Well, I fixed it. The mole should run fine now. I do have some bad news, though. You got crabs.
So, fun thing about the Thorshoe Greys. Thorshoe Grey is the one that you saw in the Connie Aquila commercial. The Thorshoe Grey it has its own lore. It does fuck with like one of the things that it does is like for like displays of dominance or displays of like territorial, it will get very shiny. It'll kind of make itself very shiny. So Thorshoe Greys have been known to get out of their tanks and go like beat up priceless artifacts as like screw you, other crab. So the idea of Thorshoe Greys infesting a ship and just screwing with it because maybe it's too shiny makes sense.
Come on!
This is also Pyro 2. Definitely Pyro 2.
That was close.
Arizona.
So, I kind of crashed my cutter. Well, Bob's cutter. Don't tell Bob. Right into a racer and their trusty Cyclone RC. Yeah. Well, fortunately, the rest of the competitors here agreed not to murder me if I took the incapacitated racer's place in the upcoming heat. Let's see if I can beat my time on the Tumbrel test track. Here we go! Woo-hoo!
Yeah, he got pitted.
I'm all right.
That race was rigged, yeah.
Okay, nobody cares. So, with my cutter out of commission, I've stowed away in the extra-large hold of this MISC Freelancer Max. I should be through the Stanton jump point, and I've landed at a nearby rest stop. Ready? Freedom! No! No, 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 no. No. No, I mean, this cannot be happening to me. Hey, you, where are you, man?
Ruin Station.
You mean I'm still in Pyro? This rate, I'll miss next year's IAE. So, folks, Ruin Station is about as big as it is creepy. Maybe we can find a ship to stow away on, and... Whoa. What is this? A new ship for RSI. Whoa. Oh, shit.
You want how much for this thing? It's a damn prototype.
Yeah, exactly. Ain't nobody else got one. Well, you throw a brand new coat of paint on this, and you'll be good. And the red's, my friend, squeaky clean.
These are 100% Xenothreat, by the way. Almost certainly these are Xenothreats.
What the hell is that? Is some kind of ambush or something?
Oh, this is no ambush, right? That will be a rodent or something.
Rodent?
This place
You
is...
think I'm stupid?
No, you're smart. Very smart. This is a smart deal.
Tell your man to stand down, or I'm gonna blow your goddamn head off!
Hi there. Just looking for the bar.
I think that's Jax McCleary.
How you doing?
Are they Xenothreat? That's an Areal armor.
Boys,
I don't remember if they
we've been
had
hacked!
Areal armor.
Kill him!
Oh, they're wearing the red armors. That's what they're doing. They're wearing the fancy red armors. But yeah, that's Xenothreat. That's Xenothreat. This is Xeno. This is you look at the red. You can see the red sightings there. So yeah, it's almost certainly Xenothreat. All right, this is where I'm going to mute it because this is where the almost certainly copyrighted music comes in. So sorry, y'all. Gunshots continue. You the last words, McCleary. Jimmy! Oh, it's almost certainly CIG purchased the copyright to have that. Nice little 30-second clip.
And you now need to redo the...
What? They didn't add the last one? Oh, they did. It just has to go to the very bottom.
Hey, did you see the last transmission?
Has anyone seen Jimmy? Where's Jimmy?
It was wild. I thought Jax was done for.
Is that McCleary?
I'll tell you what, Jimmy. If you hadn't shown up when you did, I would have been dead. But if Bob and the crew hadn't swooped in, we'd both be ink spots on the ruin station pavement.
She's definitely not, or Bob's definitely not Ninetales then, or Xenothreat, because they fucked up Xenothreat.
I owe both of you big time.
Don't mention it. Now strap in, boys. It's a long way to the jump point.
The planet in the background. There. That's Pyro 4. That's Pyro 4. Or 5. The Six, Pyro 6, Pyro 6. It's Pyro 6. That's the planet that that Ruin Station orbits, is Pyro 6.
Bob and the crew hadn't swooped in, we'd both be ink spots on the ruin station pavement. I owe both of you big time.
Don't mention it. Now strap in, boys. It's a long way to the jump point.
We need to get a crew out there.
Like an Apollo rescue team? Or...
No, a camera crew.
Ah, yeah, you're right.
This is just the format change we need.
Plenty of time, Jim, for you and I to riff on ideas for next season, huh? And we could hit a couple of my favourite pyro haunts on the way back. I could show you around, introduce you to some of the locals. Yeah, I still can't believe you managed to find me by tracking my transmissions. Whoa, crap! Not again! Bob!
Hey, yeah, there's no alert. I was watching, doing that other thing. Thank you so much for that raid there, Captain Richard. Welcome from Captain Richard Station streams. I did turn the alerts off when I do these sorts of things. How you doing? Babu, how you doing, Captain Richard? We were just going through all of the different locations. Now, it's important to note that likely all of these locations that we saw are probably not going to be the same locations in the game. They're probably just more placeholders and that kind of stuff. As we saw with the Corsair, there's side-by-side seats on the Corsair, which means that this was done before the Corsair was finished. So, Bob! Nebulas are a dangerous thing full of varying charges. Yes, and I don't think it's just, scientifically accurate, but it's cool shit. No, he wasn't, but he was definitely punching in at a station. Oh, they were definitely punching in at a station. No, Pyro won't host the IAE, but they will have a camera crew out there. Yes. I can almost guarantee you that they'll either have some sort of aspects of this in Pyro during the IAE, so you can go find it, or Jimmy and Jax will end up in Nyx instead of Pyro, because that's the next big location. Because it's going to be a year away, so. The helmet stays on. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of those pulled out. There's a lot of background information you could pull out of that. A lot of the systems. For instance, the fact that Pyro is located next to Virgil means they definitely have interactions with Van Duel of not the pleasant type. Will they use the official Jax McCleary Twitter if Twitter exists? Was it the Kraken or was that a caterpillar? I thought it was a caterpillar. Yeah, Jimmy tracks things through those transmissions, which were live from Pyro. Like, I'm live from where I am right now, but where I am right now, if you're watching this in the future, I'm not live, I'm pre-recorded because you didn't catch this up until later. Same kind of concept. So we can go blading with Van Duel and Pyro. Probably, yeah. That's an old reference. Blading is a sport that teenagers do by going out and basically jousting Van Duel ships. Hey, Sorsor. Polaris or Endeavor? I mean, I'm part of the cult of the Endeavor, so Endeavor. But Polaris is going to be good for what it's worth. Except, how can you find a live transmission without faster than light travel? You can't. All right, let me explain something. This stuff can still be sent out by a relay and sent through Stanton. Still be transmitted. Even though, like right now, I could send a radio transmission to Pluto. It will take a while to get there, but it'll still arrive at some point. Transmissions can still go through the jump point. Yeah, he's live streaming, but we're watching the VOD, effectively. Can you deactivate the relay? Yeah, almost certainly. Peace be upon the mighty Endeavor, changer of ways, yeah. It won't be as live as it can't be, but we're watching a live feed, but it takes live for a long time to reduce from Pyro to understanding that? Yes. Live means no cuts of processing. Live can mean whatever the fuck it means in Star Citizen universe, especially with the live thing. It's a really long fiber optic cable. Hey, Matt Bad. So here's the lore question. Have they talked about how regeneration technology has changed the way humanity has waged war? Not yet. It's still too early. Regeneration technology has only been actively available for 2 years. And they haven't really talked about it. They've talked a little bit about the legal ramifications from it already, but... They had that 5G. Yeah. Like, we know messages obviously come from Pyro to Stanton. Xenothreat did broadcast a message to all of Stanton from Pyro. Likely the commander was not in Stanton when he made that message. So they do live broadcasts from Pyro to Stanton. So there is some sort of network system there, similar to the relay system that exists in Star Citizen. Because that's how most messages get across. You have relays. The relays will actually shoot probes through and then broadcast to another probe. No, Musk's descendants have not survived up to 2952 as far as I know. What combat ships do you think are still needed? So many industry ships needed. I can't think of any combat ships that are in the game. The landing dock, whatever, the LHDs, the LDHs, I can't remember the name of them. That sort of logistics ship for combat. LHD, yeah. It started with the capture of the Kingship, right? We don't know. The Kingship was captured well before the actual capture. We don't know what was captured because it was a top secret mission that was done in 2946 or 47, so which predates the capture of the Kingship by several years. Or I mean, the Kingship happened in like 2940, so it was 6 years after the capture of the Kingship. It's a little bit different. Kraken is in military, yeah. IRL example framing. It takes 3 minutes for light and other electromagnets to travel from Earth to Mars. It would still be transmitted live even if it arrives 3 minutes later. Things being truly live is an illusion created by how fast light travels at the distance we most experience. Yeah, you are not watching this live. I have broadcast this through the internet a couple of seconds before you actually receive it on your end and process it. The time it takes to process this, my image, from my computer to your computer or to your phone or wherever you're watching this is several seconds. So you're not actually truly watching this live. I could end the stream right now and it would still be broadcasting. It would take a couple of seconds for you to get the last little bit of it. And in Star Citizen, the way that faster than light travel works is there is no faster than light travel, but there are relay stations which do use the jump points to transmit information. You do have to send a probe through to transmit the information, but you could also think of this as Jax was broadcasting this, it's picked up by a relay station, which is then sends that message, records the information, sends it through the Stanton jump point, then records then broadcasts the information out from that location as well. Joke's on you, I'm peeping in the window. Yeah, live TV has a delay. It's mandatory to prevent things like killings or testicles, or people in charge of broadcasting have rules. Yeah. Sounds like magic. It is. That's a buffer if you get naked? Yes. No, I don't have that kind of delay. 61 hours for radio to travel to and from Pyro to Stanton. And the closer you get to the actual broadcast, the easier it is to site. So if you know Jax is in Pyro and you're in Stanton, you can travel to Stanton and then figure out where the broadcast is coming from and track the time it takes for you to get the information and backtrack that information. How come ballistic weapons are still relevant? In Star Wars, hasn't everything been turned into laser weapons? Sort of. There are ballistic slug throwers in Star Wars. They call them slug throwers. They do exist. The reason why you would use a ballistic weapon in Star Citizen is the same reason why you'd use you don't use missiles everywhere today, even though missiles have far outstripped, ballistics in terms of the ability to pack a lot of like payload in. And the reason why is simplicity. It's very simple to build a gun that shoots a bullet. It's not that complicated. It doesn't require very exotic materials. It's fairly simple. And it can work in almost any condition. Bullets come with their own oxidizer. So you don't need oxygen to fire them. The issue is more heat generation or heat dispersal. Guns would be very difficult to use. They'd probably jam very quickly. And once you get over that, it's not too difficult to use something like that. And they're pretty cheap. So it's very simple to build it. It's probably far more complex. The inner workings of an energy weapon is far more complex than a ballistic weapon, which is just probably springs and dials. Modern. The difference between a P4 AR and a modern rifle is probably not that much different. Yeah, stealth ships would use them. You could also see them because they also bypass energy shields. That's the other thing, is that they do have a bypassing energy shields. The problem is that they don't have armor. They're not really good for dealing with armor. Armor is designed to deflect ballistics. So any ship that has armor will be resistant against ballistics. But energy can burn away that armor. It'll literally melt the armor. Problem is that energy is blocked by the energy shielding. So so a feature question, feel free to ignore. I'm still pretty new and I'm catching up on the premises and features and what they mean for the game. Regarding orgs, will we be able to manage ship lending through an org structure? What motivation would CIG have to allow ship sharing, since org members could, in theory, just borrow an org's property at larger scales? We don't know fully, but you will be able to set ownership or permissions for people, some specific people, to control or operate a ship. So org is just a structure, an easier kind of like anyone with this org tag would be able to access this ship, and then it wouldn't be too difficult to do that. It's less of a, you can think of it less as a, you can specifically share share ships or swap ships, and more of a, you can set permissions to these people controlling your ship without you being present. No, I am not part of the Star Citizen development or PR team. I am not at all connected to CIG in any way, except for they give me ships every so often to give away. I am simply a content creator who does a lot of lore stuff as well. The only CIG connection policy. I do know a lot of people who work at CIG. That's not my fault. They're fans who watch my videos and watch my live streams, and they end up getting jobs at CIG. And no problem, Meliku. Very few people that work at CIG stream Star Citizen, and those who do, generally speaking, will not comment on any kind of development stuff. I didn't invent the Redeemer, goddammit. When will we get a disco module for the Galaxy? Not soon enough. Not soon enough. Can we ask CIG to make a Redeemer with a bar instead of a crew quarters, full wall for bar? No, stop it. Get some help. Would you say the Polaris most closely resembles the Rocinante? Almost yes, 100%. The Polaris, in terms of function, is almost certainly the Rocinante. I would say the Perseus, in terms of its role, is probably more like the Rocinante. But in function, like the Rocinante is a missile gunboat, a missile corvette, if I remember correctly. But like, it's pretty, you know. But if you hang out there, you might get hired by CIG. Nope, not gonna happen. Don't believe Paul when he says he doesn't like the Redeemer. He has one in his tank. Shut the fuck up. They should turn on the Redeemer and do first mobile. No, god damn it. Food cut cutlass. Yeah, that's what the cutlass purple should be. Make a taco truck mod for the Galaxy. I'd love to see it. But I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Chat's just messing with me at this point. In 0G, are wedgies more bearable? I don't know. Sorry, Paul Invader. I like the Redeemer. I can't hate it. Welcome to I've become what I swore to destroy. In the current state of the game, would you recommend someone new like me to purchase the game or wait for more development? It really depends on what you want out of the game. If you are interested in a game you want to play, like main the game right now, play it every day, do the MMO thing, no, Star Citizen isn't there yet. If you're somebody who's like, this game looks like it has promise, I'd love to purchase this game and continue forward, yeah, go for it. But don't purchase it because it's a game you can play right now in Star Citizen, like in reality. It's got to be something that you want to do, or something you want to see progress. I would say that Star Citizen is getting close, though. I would say, said this last year, I'll probably be wrong again, but maybe a year. We'll see. I'll be able to firmly recommend. Yeah, this is a game you can play. I'm just worried about the content there is to do. I love the idea of what looks awesome. I'm not too sure. I was just thinking of buying it now and just have it maybe sit back in and burner for a few months and years. That's probably the best idea. Let me do it this way, Mello. This is the cheapest you're going to get Star Citizen. Right now is the cheapest you will ever get Star Citizen, unless you have a time machine and go back to when you can get it for $25. The game is only going to get more expensive as more things get added. So the more value, the more it has value for an average gamer, the more expensive it's going to get until it's eventually $60. So the game will eventually be $60 to purchase. But the kind of content there is right now, if you just straight up did nothing but Star Citizen for your gaming experiences 4 hours a day, you probably would be able to explore everything Star Citizen has to offer in about a month or two. There's a shit ton of content in Star Citizen that's been there over the years. It's just not all repeatable or dynamic enough yet. Any word on the release of the paint job for this year? Any word of the ship of the year paint job release news? It's already out. If you have it in your hangar, it's already there. Do you think the Vulcan, or do you think the Vulcan being used to do rapid deliveries to a light fighter? Maybe. I think it's going to be a good option for that. Star Citizen at the moment is a little bit more than a screenshot simulator. It's more than that, Bonnie. I disagree when people say it's a screenshot generator or it's a tech demo. It's a game in development. It's an early access game. There's a lot of content, but if you play the game constantly, if you've been playing the game for 8 years, yeah, you've done everything 4 times. If you're brand new, there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize. Learning to mine, hand mine, exploring the caves, doing bounties, doing box missions, doing smuggling, doing the various missions like the Price of Freedom, doing the Black Kite mission, doing the boarding missions on the 890 jump, doing any of the mission giver missions like the down satellite from forgot his name, the creepy dude from Lorville, doing the mission chain from I always forget his name too. The mercenary where you do the brothers, like the family that you're trying to hunt down that ends with the Idris. There's a ton of content in Star Citizen. It's just, like I said, not really repeatable. Yeah, it's not an MMO yet. Clovis Darneely. Eckhart, and Miles Eckhart is the one who did does the I can't remember the name of it. My brain's not working. It's the outlaw group that stole an Idris. The Arlington brothers. Yes, the Arlington family. The Arlington gang, yeah. Nope. Eckhart's supposed to be in Stanton. I think he may eventually go to Nix, but no, it's massively multiplayer. The number of people in Star Citizen's huge. You can get like up to 120 people, which is generally speaking the minimum bar most people have for MMOs. So yeah, it's definitely an MMO in terms of the people who can play in it. It's got 120 people per server. Performance is pretty good. It's just the content for like the dailies, the weeklies, the reputation, the grinding, the raids, the dungeons, those don't exist yet. Yeah, there's a lot of sandbox. Star Citizen is a sandbox at its core. Does anyone know if FreeFly UEC will transfer over afterwards? I had 7 million on the website since I have 5K. 5K is what you have starting out with. 7 million would be what you have in game. The problem is that between 3.17.4 and 3.18, which is going to come out in the next month or two, the next patch, they're going to wipe all your progress. So it does continue over on your account until the next major patch, which was going to wipe things. But it should be the last wipe for a while. Hey, Mr. Matt, how you doing? Don't get me wrong, I play with my org weekly, and at least I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for coming and joining us, Mr. Matt. Effectively, Star Citizen is... I would recommend people to buy Star Citizen if they enjoy early access games. If you're the kind of person who goes on and say, I really like this idea, and this game does it, I think this game is going to do it really well on Steam, and pick it up and just enjoy playing what you have. Yeah, I mean, that's true too. We have a lot of sand, not a lot of toys. In a sandbox, you need to have toys to be able to play. We have a lot of sand, we don't have a lot of toys, so it's harder to produce our own content. That's true. We also need things like dynamic missions, NPC missions that are more fluid. But like, there's mission types that I haven't even done. The latest combat like distress signal missions that they added that are dynamically generated through Quanta. Those missions can lead you up to an Idris. I've never done one. I saw one of your older guide videos talking about some of the unlawful mission givers around Stanton. Does the guy at Lorville Reclamation Disposal still go out missions? No. The best way if you're going to do smuggling, I haven't updated the smuggling guide because it hasn't really been viable recently. But the best way to do smuggling missions is either to do the smuggling chain with Ruto in the Crusader Cross is back, basically. If you saw my old Crusader Cross video, where you go to Ruto, you go to, is it Ruto? No, not Ruto. It's Klim, Wallace Klim. In Grimhex, you get his mission where he tells you to basically find packages, and you just kind of deliver packages to different places, and you can go to Jumptown and buy some pretty cheap Altrusia toxin, and you can sell that for some decent money. But there is an entire mission chain that's just dedicated to smuggling, which is the company in Loreville. If you go to the Hurston area, if you do those missions, you'll eventually get a mission chain that you can start doing illegal missions, which are just box missions. I agree. My current attitude for the game is that it's not a game that doesn't exist, because CIG has a knack for not meeting deadlines for various reasons. It's an active development. Is there a lore video on Vaughn? No, we don't know a lot about Vaughn yet. I thought I heard Chris Roberts used a Kickstarter or backer money to buy a mansion. I mean, he bought a house in like Southern California, where he lives, where the company is. You probably heard that he bought a yacht and a lot of other things. There's a lot of people who want to make this game about Chris when it hasn't been about Chris for years. Yeah. Yeah, he's recently moved to Manchester. How you doing, Farisol? And no, we didn't really use backer money. It's not like he pulled money out of the Star Citizen accounts. He pays himself as the CEO of the company and used his money that he earned from being a CEO to pay for his own stuff. It would be like saying Elon Musk used Tesla's money to buy himself a house. Same concept. Or Jeff Bezos used Amazon's money to, buy a yacht. That's it. You're going to get a lot of people who are super defensive about it in chat because we hear about it all the time as a dig on people, and which is weird. A lot of what you've heard from outside of the Star Citizen community is not researched, intentionally biased, or intentionally negative. Because for some reason, there's people who have decided that they want to see Star Citizen fail. There's some very sad individuals out there who are dedicated to that thing. Some of them are just trying to troll and have fun. Again, I don't know why they've chosen Star Citizen. I guess it's just easier for them. But yeah, most of the articles you'll see people say Star Citizen's made $500 million, no release in sight. You'll hear people say, oh, there's been no progress made, and it's corrupt, it's a scam, and all of that is unresearched clickbait articles, a lot of information coming from places like Kotaku and people who are just fucking around. Yep, as I've said many times before, those people who write for those video game articles, they just got to get that ramen. They got to pay their $4,000. They're going to pay their $500 portion of the rent that they share, of the house that they share with 16 other people to be able to live in LA. Because they get 10 cents per click on their articles for Kotaku. They got to get that ramen. They got to pay the bill somehow. Ah, gamer ranks. Always the pinnacle of gaming journalism. First time I made it to one of your live shows. Thanks for the follow. Watch your videos for a while now. Thank you for watching. Polaris interior looks amazing. I love that it walked down that bridge. Looks pretty good. Man, if they clickbait hard enough, they can maybe even have beef for that ramen. That's a spicy meatball there. All right, cool. It puts me at ease. Yeah. Could Star Citizen fail tomorrow? Yes, 100%. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. There's infinite possibilities. But Star Citizen is a company that is, or CIG is a company that makes Star Citizen, is a company of over 1,000 people over several continents. So for that matter, Twitter could fail tomorrow. That's very true. Celine says, I mean, I was a hardcore herder, scam citizen, elite dangerous player, then someone handed me an Aurora. Star Citizen will always speak for itself, which is why CIG does a bunch of those free flights and stuff like that. Because as I've talked to multiple people at CIG, they said there's nothing that we're going to be able to do to convince somebody it's not a scam until they play the game. And free flights are a great way of doing that. I don't know. I've heard the tinfoil hat theory that publishers are secretly trying to stop Star Citizen from being successful because they don't want to see this avenue work. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I just think there's no vested interest in the gaming media say nice things about Star Citizen because CIG doesn't advertise on their sites. When Squadron 42 comes out and CIG starts paying companies like Kotaku and PC Gamer advertising revenue, you'll start to see their attitude switch almost overnight because that's what happens. Most of the advertising revenue that these gaming sites get is from gaming developers and publishers, so they have a vested interest in not pissing them off because that's what pays the goddamn bills, which is nature of the beast, but it's also incredibly, like, dubiously ethical. I said good day, sir. Yeah. And so because there's no strings attached, they can go absolutely fucking ham on CIG and Star Citizen. I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting a little bit of catharsis out from all the other companies that they can't say shit about because they're afraid that if they say shit about it on their sites, they'll just lose funding. So they're going to take any kind of practice that CIG does that other companies do and blow it well out of proportion because they can just let it out. Just let it go. And they know they're going to get lots of clicks on it, so. Notice how we don't have a ton of articles about random 2-year R game dev projects selling single-digit copies on Steam? Yeah. Hey, Jamie Page, how you doing? Yeah, Free Flight enticed me into it. Tried a different Free Flight a year ago, so performance wasn't playable, but I had heard it optimized a lot, and I was not disappointed. It's going to get even better the next patch. CIG is finally finishing up their Gen 12 renderer, which will then roll them into the Vulkan API. So they're actually going to have modern rendering software or API, modern rendering API running in the background, which should increase performances like a lot. That's a good way of putting it. Star Citizen is the F-35 of video games. It was fake and crap until it very suddenly wasn't. Because the F-35, famously, most of the articles about the F-35 being shit are from Russian news agencies that people keep citing as truth, even though it was all made up bullshit and propaganda made up by the people who have vested interest in making the F-35 look like garbage so they can sell their own aircraft. So, yeah, kind of concept. I have an Elite Dangerous friend. I showed him the cutter. They literally squeed over how cute it was for 2 minutes. I got it for him. Nice. Is it going to mean that upgrade my GPU now? You probably will. Yes, because the game is going to be more GPU than CPU dependent, or at least equally GPU and CPU dependent. The F-35 isn't a bad plane. Most of the stuff you've heard about the F-35 is propaganda. Literally propaganda. But how it costs so much money, and it's not stealth. All of that stuff is just Russian propaganda. If you follow the bread trails back to where all this information comes from, it comes from like RT, Russia Today, and other places like that. Same reason why people get angry at Star Citizen is because, they heard an article from one person who has a personal vendetta against Chris Roberts, and it gets passed around by 17 different articles, and someone heard that Star Citizen is a scam. Same concept. I like the cutter. I think the cutter is always going to be the best choice for a new player over the Avenger, because the Avenger is the meta choice, Avenger Titan, but I think the cutter is better simply because even though it doesn't have as much cargo capacity, the way it's structured is bigger. And it has a slightly better, like, cabin. Yeah, but it's not going to be that much cheaper. It's going to end up being a $60 package, whereas the Avenger Titans is going to be a $70 package. I love the cutter's cope shields in the cockpit. It is definitely cope shields. Why would Russia mislead us? I wonder why. Okay, the cutter is kind of sexy. I adore the jankness and the lights of the cutter. It's so garbage. It's a piece of shit, and I love it. Do you think CIG will use asynchronous reprojection? No idea. That is word. Those are words that I kind of recognize. I saw a 3800 times 3D with a budget GPU, and the GPU still bottlenecked at around 40 FPS. Sounds about right. Basically, the CPU is the big bottleneck. It's the thing that you need to be beefy at. I currently have a i7-10700 or 11700K CPU, and I've got a 2070 Super, and I get anywhere between 40 and 80 FPS depending where I am. The average is about 50 to 60 in most places in Star Citizen. And once things get moved off of the CPU, I'll probably stay around the same 60 to like 80 FPS, but also probably more consistently rather than just that. Asynchronous reprojection allows 30 FPS to feel like 120 FPS, possibly. I don't know how. If it works with Vulkan, then yes, because they're using the Vulkan API. So whatever Vulkan API can do, they'll try to do it to improve performance and to improve stability or all that kind of stuff. Question: what do you not like about the new Polaris interior? I don't know. I don't really like the Polaris overall. I get why people like it, but just not my ship. I don't have the seething hatred like I do for the Redeemer, but I'm just like, it's alright. I guess if I'd say anything, it's like there's a lot of space that's going to be wasted with those capital ship components, but that's the trade-off. It's a tiny fucking ship. Putting you're sticking in a V8 in a Honda, in a Civic. Is what it is. Yeah, it's going to take up some fucking space. Oh, I hate the Redeemer. I absolutely despise the Redeemer. And it's not because the ship is bad. I just hate it. I just hate that ship with a fiery passion. I saw Mr. Streamer on YouTube with Space Tomato. Good vid. Thank you, Lemon Line. Yes, me and Keenan go way back. Now we've been around forever. God damn it. But yeah, Keenan's been on. Mr. Space Tomato has been on the Captain's Table, which is my own podcast. He's been on Info Runners, which I'm on as well. So yeah, thank you for watching it. And I still stand by, yes, Star Citizen needs more ships. Of course it needs more fucking ships. This game's a space game. It needs more ships. If not just for NPCs to have some variety. Is your fiery passion the reason why the dumpster is on fire? Yes. Yeah, 155 meter ship is tiny for a capital ship. May I introduce you to my friend, the Bengal Carrier? The several kilometer long ship. Or even the Idris. Or the Javelin. Basically, it's a tiny ship comparative to the components that are installed inside of it. Yeah, the Retribution. Yeah. The Bengal's 1 kilometer, not several, but the Retribution is several, yeah. Is the plan to always have a ship components scattered around systems in different stores fronts? In the same franchise? Outfighting the ship right now is very tedious. No, that's just because they want you to move around the system. Eventually, they'll have components and rare components in specific locations, but in different systems. What you see now is more of a representation of what they want you to do long term. So if you want to get a specific, component, you may not be able to find it in wherever you're going. It has to be in one location. Yes, it's going to shake itself apart. Yeah, yes. I get that. I get that Defiant reference from DS9. It is it's the Defiant is what the Polaris is. It's a tiny ship with massive, with oversized engines and shields. The other thing I'm not a fan of is the Polaris is it's a bridge location. A lot of people have talked about that before, but I think it's fine for what it is. It's effectively a gunship that's been slightly upgraded. So, do you think there's any truth in Morphologist's estimate of 7 to 8 years catching up backlog of ships? Maybe someone who's going to bring that up. I think that Morph isn't wrong, but also is back in. He even said himself it's back in the napkin math, and it's probably longer. But I think it's also important to remember that a lot of those ships have no value in the game. You could have an Idris in the game right now. We just don't know. There's just no gameplay for it because there's no multi-crew ships. There's no multi-crew ship functionality. It's also estimating with what we have now, not with what we have in the future. Adding new people, having people leave, improved tool sets to speed up the process is something he didn't take into account. There's a lot of unknowns. 7 to 8 years, probably, but that's also inferring that all of those ships will be done in 7 to 8 years after 7 or 8 years. Some of those ships will be coming out sooner, some of them will be coming out later. The Endeavor, for instance, is a ship that's not coming out until well after the release of Star Citizen. CIG has confirmed that many times over. And you can think of the Endeavor as several different. There's the Endeavor Hope, and then the base Endeavor, plus all the modules. That in itself is a lot. Several of those ships, like the whole series, is just the same ship, but bigger. The whole D, C, D, and E are all the same ship. So the actual turnaround time for those is probably not nearly as much as something like the Javelin. The Javelin's needed for Squadron 42, so several of those things are probably there. Same with the Idris. The reality is that only a handful of ships really are that kind of like, oof, it's going to be a hard time. But things like the Orion, and then it's hard for me to think of it because I don't think there's many big ships like that were sold to backers. You get the Polaris, the Perseus, the Orion, the Idris, the Javelin, the Endeavor, and then the whole series. The Kraken, yeah. The Kraken would be another one that would probably take a while too. The Kraken and the Orion are probably the two big ones that are probably a little more. And then you have things like the Liberator, but the Liberator is pretty small comparatively. And it's mostly just pads. It's flying pads. I just did a big podcast and got into it with Burks on Twitter about it. I've gotten to him about it too. It's just... And this is me saying right now, Morphologist, Salty Mike, Burks, and I don't know so much as Zero. I didn't watch all of the 2-hour podcast they did on this because I didn't really have time to, nor the desire to, because I knew what they were going to say and they mostly said it. Morphologist has... I'm going to put this in a way because I myself have kind of been the same way. So this is not an attack on any of them. And if you're watching this after the fact, if someone tries to clip this out of context, please come back and watch this again because I want to be very clear. Mike and Morph have very different perspectives on how the game is going to develop than someone like myself. Because we look at the game from two completely different perspectives. For me, I look at the game as it is now and as it will be in the near future. Not necessarily, like, to me, part of the fun is to calculate, like, okay, let's see where the game's going to be in the future, where they are, kind of following the development as it is. But I'm also interested in the game as it's going to look like, as it is now, and how it's going to look like in the future. For Mike and for Morph, and to a degree for people like Burks, what they care about is this a fucking game? Can I play it? Is it fun now? Can I enjoy it? Tell me when the game is going to happen, because I came to play the game, which is a valid argument. It's a valid argument of saying, I want this to be a game I play right now. I paid my money, I want my game. Which there are many people in the community who are like that. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I say, hey, if you want a mainline Star Citizen, it's not there yet, because it's not the game to play a game. It is still very much a game in development, and a lot of the fun for people like myself are following the development itself. And where I disagree with that crew on their beliefs is, this sounds a little bit like semantics, but it's not. First of all, hell of a thing to suddenly have an ethical problem with Star Citizen's main development standpoint, which is how they've been making their money for the last 10 years, which is selling concept ships. That is literally how they make their money. That's how they've always made their money. But ethics is a personal thing. So if you think it's unethical, that's fine. Not ethics, immoral is what they used to say, not ethical. It moves from my brain. It's a heck of a thing to have a moral issue about it, saying it's immoral to do so. That's fine, that's personal. That's different from ethics, which I think is what they're trying to say is it's unethical, but it's not. Because ethics and morality are two different things. As a person who's of the LGBTQ, of the alphabet mafia, there's plenty of people out there who may be even watching this video right now who think that I am immoral. Because that's their own personal belief in morality. Morality is not universal, no matter who tells you what it is. If they're telling you it's universal, they're selling you something. They're either in a cult or other things like that. But ethics is really what they're trying to say. And ethics is what a society or a group of people are interested in. I'm not an expert in this sort of social dynamics, but this is one of those philosophy things. It's one of the philosophy things I think a lot of people get wrong. And by saying something is unethical, you'd have to look at the rest of gaming as a whole. And unfortunately, Star Citizen is not doing anything unethical comparatively to the rest of the gaming community. Things like season passes exist, things like microtransactions exist, things like extended special editions. Hell, fucking DCS sells entirely different planes for more money than some Star Citizen ships. Train Simulator is the same way. And Star Citizen is not the person that in no way, shape, or form. CIG didn't pioneer any of this stuff. So, when I say their perspective, you have to understand that that's their perspective on the game. So when they're talking about things like holding Star Citizen accountable or CIG accountable, they're coming at it from that perspective. GTA 5, another example. So the problem I have with saying we need to hold CIG accountable for these sorts of things is that fundamentally you can't. To be fair, DCS aircraft are at a simulation fidelity that's not really comparable to Star Citizen. That's not the point. Cezanio. I'm saying, how do they sell their game? They sell their game by selling planes at large prices. They do macro transactions. It has nothing to do with how in-depth the simulation is. It has to do with their business practices. Same thing. They said it was immoral. They said it was immoral multiple times, Masanio. And they didn't say unethical, they said immoral. I did watch it, and I also disagree with that concept as a whole. Because plenty of people, the pre-orders have been a thing in video gaming for a very long time. Hey, Stunner. Now, this isn't to say that what the four of them said on their podcast is wrong, and it's their own opinions. That's fine. I just disagree on their fundamental assumptions. I just like funny space games. I know. Have you heard the nails in Star Citizen lore? Basically, ODST drop pods. To my understanding, I would love to be released in functional play. They're never going to, Sam. They've already said that that pods, that nails are military technology, so we won't see them, sadly. We may see a civilian version of them, but right now it's civilian. I have lost my kidneys, and I'm always happy to make it to the next Star Citizen patch. Enjoying the next ride, and hope they finish it. Yeah. Space Bingo Burr. The part where they're saying it's immoral is the list of ships backlog and growing, no discernible attempt to tackle the backlog. I got that. But I also think, first off, it's like I said, it sounds like it's semantics, but it's not. It's not immoral. It may be immoral. What they're trying to say is unethical, which is two different things. But the problem is, if you say it's unethical, then you have to compare it to other games out there in the universe, and there are plenty of games that have been doing this same concept longer. Cupan's in chat. MechWarrior Online. MechWarrior Online was doing that well before Star Citizen was a thing. Selling the concept of a mech that would eventually come out in the future. And again, the issue is immoral, and morality is personal. If someone believes something is immoral, that's fine. That's their own personal belief. But that's not what they're saying. UE Marines don't fuck around, as far as I know from them. They don't even officially exist according to UE. I mean, they do. They officially exist. You just don't fucking talk to them. I mean, you would if you worked in the Navy, but they are very, very elite. The elite of the elite. I recently built a new PC. How long does it take to usually for Telemetry Tracker to update that? Your PC? Maybe a little bit. You may have to. I don't know exactly how the Telemetry Tracker works, so it may take a while. Yeah, if you see a nail dropping, you're probably already dead. You just don't realize it yet. Right. Right now, you can pre-order Hatchet Man from PGI for MWO. But, like, Hatchet Man's not coming out anytime soon. It may come out in the future. Oh, no, I agree with you, Sam. I agree that an orbital drop pod would be fucking amazing. I'd love to do it. Strap me inside of a metal tube and fire me at the Earth, Daddy. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. That sounds like a great way of playing Star Citizen. And they can definitely do it, but I think they have to come up with it. Three months away from the release of the Mech 12. There we go. But it's not available right now. It's available in the future. And they give you updates on what they're working on, concept art, that kind of stuff. Now, for clarification, this is where the thing's going to sound weird. I 100%, hey, Starlight, thank you so much for giving those subs. I 100% agree with them in the context that it's really fucking stupid for CIG to be releasing big concept ships when they know it's going to take them a long time to produce it. I just disagree with the concept that suddenly it's bad, that CIG doesn't have a full context of how they're going to release those things when they've never had that. And they just tell us how they're updating as they go through. Paul Shelley is a steely-eyed missile man. Yes. I get that reference. It's a bad business practice, but it's neither immoral nor unethical. Yeah, basically. I think it's a stupid idea. I think it's going to get them in more trouble than they realize, but at the same time, they're basically banking on, like, sometime in the future, we may speed this up. Just like, okay, you know this isn't going to be the case. Why the fuck are you adding to your pile of shit to be done? Yeah. Stand by for Titanfall, yeah. Of everything, I think CIG is the worst estimation of how long it'll take to do things. Yeah. People complain about Star Citizen, Cyberpunk's Fallout 76, Anthem, every game the company rushes games. Yes, but at the same time, it's, you know. Follow me for a second here. If the tech that makes large ships play viable hasn't been in the game, then having some of those bigger ships ready to test the boundaries of new tech is absolutely necessary. Which they might have. The Javelin has had interiors for a while, and the Idris has had interiors for a while. The whole sea is finished. Like, you probably didn't know that. The whole sea's done. It's finished. Ready to go. And they already have ships that they're working on to test that information. The Hammerhead is their test bed for multi-crew gameplay. They've already started working on that. So they already have multi-crew gameplay set up for ships that are already in the game, ready to go. And it's a lot easier to make a Hammerhead up to snuff for that sort of thing than, say, an Idris or a Javelin. Which may take a little bit longer to fully rig up. But, yeah. No, the whole sea has gotten its new pass. It has a brand new pass that it's done to put it up to standard with the hull A, and that was done in October. They could release into the game right now. As far as I understand, that was the update from the last monthly report. It's just not. And the reason why they haven't, there's no gameplay for it. Yeah. There's no point to add it, because there's no gameplay for it. And we know, for instance, the Idris has to have an interior because it's for Squadron. The Javelin's also in Squadron. Both of them have interiors. The reason why they won't release them, because they're both in Squadron. And I can imagine the whole C, the whole E, and the whole D and E are probably not too much different. It's just the difference between a whole C and a whole D and E is some more engines, a little bit more of an interior space in terms of like the geometry and bigger spindles. And that's the real discussion that I think would have been a better discussion is why release the Galaxy now? What's the purpose of releasing the Galaxy now? Because it doesn't seem like a good idea to most people. I would love to know where CIG is in modularity. An update on modularity would have been nice when you release it, because if this is, oh, we're already finished modularity or we're ready to go because we have X, Y, or Z done, we're just waiting for this, which is why we wanted to do the Galaxy, because we wanted to use it as the base for the RSI large ships, and those sorts of things would have been a little bit better, I think, for a lot of people. But I also think that's a minor issue because CSG sold the shit out of that ship. The Galaxy does support pyro gameplay as they stated. Yes, but you know what I'm saying, Tree. CIG is very bad at just doing this hand-wavy thing because that, okay, when pyro, like supporting pyro gameplay could mean 4.0, it could mean 4.9. Like, it's complete. We don't have any idea of time frame for that. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah. Thank you for coming and watching it. Yeah, they have not put a modular ship through a new ship pipeline. Previously, they said the module takes as long as long to make its new ship variant. So they needed they need to see a current method to make so it's time. No time frame, but far more relevant than capital class combat. Yeah. How many games have you coded to judge? None, but I'd like to know. Like, that's completely, I don't know where that has to do with anything. I'd like to know this information, especially if they're selling something for real hard cold cash. It's like, I wouldn't buy a game if they just said, trust us, bro. This game's going to be done without any information. Be like, no, I probably wouldn't do that. I mean, I've coded stuff before. I just never coded a game. I don't know what you're getting at, because I've heard that before. Do you know game development? If you don't need me there, then shut the fuck up. It's like, no, bro. I'm paying for a product, though. Do you have a degree in game review? Yeah. I mean, even John Crew talked about the issues with the tally and the drop seat modules, where the torps would show up in it. They did some sort of internal dev on the modules. They have, yeah. But I think it would be nice to have some sort of update there to figure out, because I think that would have, I think you wouldn't have had as much people freaking out about it if CIG was like, this is a ship that we're shooting to release next year because we want to test modules, because all these other things are in place. Yeah, the Hull C just doesn't make any sense right now. The Hull C is a long-range freight. It's like you wouldn't use a super freighter to transport a single, like, or even like a warehouse full of onions from New York City to Boston Harbor. Like, it makes no goddamn sense. The Hull C is something you transport massive quantities of goods across star systems. Oh, I'd love for them to communicate that information, but I don't think they'd ever be clear about it ever. Yeah, that's true. Hey, Jaded, just chill out, dude. I get the point, and I understand it. I think they're just misunderstanding what my point is on that. A lot of holes feel that way. There's no need for a hole in Stanton from Stanton to Pyro, maybe. Yeah. And Hull C is in Squadron 42, so they need to have it for Squadron 42 anyways. But unless they're gold onions, and then why would you use a super freighter? Use an armored transport. It's a lot better. I just want to be able to take a load of Hull C and at JT using smaller ships and purchasing cargo containers. That's something that's coming to happen sometime next year. I'll be able to. That's the other thing, is we don't have the cargo stuff. So using a transport truck for delivering a pizza, basically. like I said at the very beginning, we're in this weird position where Star Citizen, anytime you take a look at Star Citizen and say, where is X? You can point to a place where they're working on it or it's in the pipeline. And we can see that process already started. Things like PES, things like refueling, which people forget was added here. Increase in player cap, things like the Gen 12 renderer, things like, trying to think of the other things that exist coming out. Salvage, which is in 3.18, and cargo refactor. All of these things are stepstones onto larger things, which are to a lot of people's concerns, like gameplay, player numbers, being able to play with other people, server sizes, server meshing. All of those things are in the process. They're in the oven. They're baking. But we're still not there yet, and it's still going to be probably several years before we are. So when someone like Morph says, 7 to 8 years, we're probably not going to even have the beta for another 3. So if we don't even have beta for another 3 years, the game may come out in 7 years. They confirmed hand mining rocks now stack in inventory in 3.18. Yeah, that's true. They why they want you to hire escorts? Yes, even though you can't really do so in game. You had a guess on not too long ago came that modules would be easy to do once PES is in. I really wanted to believe that. Tree0311, who's in chat right now, there, Gimbal Lock. That's who was talking about it. Yeah, the SRV. The SRV is in active development as it is. They seem to be doing something with fucking tractor beams. It's in there. Yeah, and Tree's did the deep dive based off of what John Cruz said and that whole thing. Yeah, it seems like PES is doing a really good job in the Evo so far, and you know how we know that? Because they haven't complained about it. We haven't seen people posting horror stories about it, so it seems like it's doing okay. Do you think we'll see Ship X flying around that we have racing? I really hope so. I would really love to see. That would be a great little Easter egg CIG to add Ship X at some of the racing sites. For those of you who don't know, Ship X is this famous whole C that's flying around, that flies around, that shows up to racing sites, and then has profane messages on the sides of the ship, because there's these billboards you can have on the whole sides of whole Cs. It's infamous because they cut away from it before it gets out the broadcast, but anyone who shows up live to those ship events will always see them. And before they can scramble ships to deal with it, it's usually out of the area. It does. It's the meme where it shows up, flips everybody off, doesn't explain, leaves. This is Banksy, yeah. Do you think the ballistics bus is going to be in the live build? I think it'll end up in the PTU, and I think everyone's going to just take a giant steaming pile of dog doo on CIG's chest for that decision. So we'll see. We'll see if it makes it to live the build. But I think a lot of I think this is where I would trust Burks and pretty much anyone else who plays the game in that combat mode, because I don't play that as much. And all of them, even Zero, are like, this is a fucking dumb idea. And yeah, I think it is. I 100% agree with him on that one. So basically, CIG is making it so that all ballistic weapons completely bypass shields. Completely bypass shields. They don't get blocked at all. Less than 10% of the damage gets blocked by the shields. So now ballistic weapons will insta-gib ships, as if the shields don't exist. Yeah, that's what the thing they're doing in 3.18. But we don't have armor yet. Exactly. That's what most people have been saying. Will the Safaran shields do anything then? We don't know. There's no armor in the game for 318 though, Sam. Even on ballistic-based shields, they have not confirmed that or not, so I don't know. Yeah, what most people said they needed an ammo count buff and a slight weapon buff, slight damage buff. They didn't need right hand of God buff. Do you feel like they overdid it with showing us pyro, and then we're not going to see it for so long? Probably a little bit, but I also don't think CIG thinks or even wants to say that. I don't think they believe that pyro is going to come out later. Hey, thank you for the $10. Whoever did that. So what the information that I got was from, all this information comes from leaks, is what it is. So it could be wrong. It could be entirely wrong. But based off of the leaks information we've seen. Oh, no, it's not. It's not based off of leaks. The shield pen thing is directly from CIG's mouth. They said it at a patch watch, the last patch watch. And CIG putting the cart before the horse is like, it's practically their job now. I could list off 20 things that CIG has released far too soon before they should have released. Paul, what's a lynx? It's a small cat that exists in the mountains of. No, it's the luxury version of the Ursa. They said it's less than only 10% of damage is negated. Is what they said. I can read it to you directly. Let me see the link. There we go. Let me pull it up right here because I got this fancy thing here. All right. Ballistic shield penetration. Ballistic shield penetration will be largely increased. This will change. Even strong shields will only scrub off a few % of the incoming ballistic damage. Related but not quite ready for Alpha 318, we're working on a weapon diversification, which will strongly influence weapon performance, parameters, and ammo counts, which is planned for the patch this year. So that's basically what I said. It's full penetration except for a fraction of ballistic damage, only a few %. That's a lot of damage that goes through. How effective were shields during the Tavaran War? Very effective. The phalanx shields, the second Tavaran War phalanx shields were fucking amazing. And here, let me blow it up a little bit, and then enhance and highlight it. Right there. Get it even bigger. Here we go. And read it directly. It's effectively full pen. Distortion weapons right here. Distortion numbers are also changing. Coolers will not be affected by distortion to avoid deadlocking. Power plants will not scale down their power output with increased distortion damage, but will instead binarily shut off once distortion damage is too high. Power plants will then take 5 minutes to recover, while power down items will not receive any more distortion damage. These are not final tuning values for distortion. Consider them a temporary measure until we approach related gameplay topics like slowing the chips down. Welcome, everybody. I missed Jack's videos. So glad Jimmy's there. They're great. All right, it's getting too late. I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow for a little bit of Star Citizen and then some Dark Tide. So if you want to join us for that one, it'll be a little bit earlier than this. So about 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll do a little bit of there beforehand. And then, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Then Saturday, we've got Captain's Table. Someone has asked me if we can go to the Virtual Bar Citizen. I don't know. Because, again, Captain's Table. And I originally had something planned for Sunday, but I can't do it on Sunday because I have the Spice Must Roll. We're coming back with another episode of the Star Trek Solace, I believe is what it was calling it. We're going to be doing that. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed yourself. If you did, hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Hit us the follow button on Twitch. And yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Yes, I did draw the Corsair Fat Docs. I drew it for Robert Voss one. We're giving away now for exclamation point December. We're giving away an executive pack. So I've got an executive pack to give away, which is all 3 spirits. So good night, y'all.